One man is being victimized by our own government. One man whom they fear, yet who millions love. One man who is willing to take the poison arrows of lawfare. One man whose voice has been taken away by a corrupt judge operating in a corrupt system. One man who has been ridiculed and insulted. One man who refused to back down. One man who refused to back down. One man who refused to back down. One man who stands between us and them. One man that wants to see America protected again. One man who wants to see America prosper again. One man who understands that a man is a man and a woman is a woman. One man who understands and protects the blessing of life. One man who wants to restore American exceptionalism. One man who once again wants to make America that shining city on a hill for all to see. A place where all the people of the world glowingly set their eyes upon. America. One man who unashamedly wants to make America great again. That one man is Donald Trump.
This is Fanfare with Barry Cunningham.
So let me jump in here real quick. Good morning. President Trump is showing MBS around the grounds of the White House. He's walking through the Hall of Fame. I'm sure it's going to be funny when he gets to Joe Biden's picture. As you can see right there, he's in front of Harry S. Truman and FDR. And Eisenhower is next, so it's going to be pretty funny when he brings him down and shows him the auto pen. I think that's still hanging there. Welcome, everybody. Historic day. The Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia is meeting with President Trump. There was a bunch of fanfare earlier when they had the horses, and it was just beautiful. When they break to go inside, I'm going to rewind so you guys can see that, so you can see the pomp and circumstances and the Air Force flyover, so you can see that. It was absolutely beautiful. This is live right now. I was trying to gauge the time with Greenwich Mean Time, but right here, as you can see, the president is showing MBS the Wall of Fame / shame with Joe Biden. So they're in front of Dwight D. Eisenhower, if you guys don't recognize your presidents, and they're about to get in front of JFK, and then of course LBJ, and they'll be heading in. So just take a watch. I'll be right back. God, he's showing him the auto pen instead of Biden's picture. It's still sitting there. He's showing... Unbelievable. Yes, I did see the PR stunt that Marjorie Trader Green had put up, but this is just too funny. He's got the auto pen picture right there, showing the crown prince of the crown prince of Saudi Arabia is viewing all the presidents, and he gets to Biden, and there's an auto pen. Oh goodness! Oh my goodness! This man is too much. Too much. He trolls constantly. Unbelievable. All right, while they've gone on inside, they're going to be probably getting ready to sit down in the Oval Office. I understand that they screwed up and they put two uploads at the same time. Obviously, we're live here. If you could tell other people, come on over and join us over here, it would be greatly appreciated. I do not know why it's scheduled two of them. But you can see, well, you can't see, let me just show you. The rest of the cabinet is getting ready to go in with Pete Hegseth. I see Scott Bessent and Marco Rubio there as well. So if you guys could go ahead and chat into the other people, there's a whole bunch of things happening with the internet right now. Oh, there's those beautiful horses. There's so much happening with the internet today. All kinds of things are broken down. If you could let the other guys know there was a missed schedule for some reason, and then a new stream started. So there's people in the other one waiting. If you could please direct them over here, Ashley and SV, because this is kind of nuts what's going on. So it only takes them a couple of minutes before they get into the Oval Office for the actual talk. So let me rewind so you guys can see what happened earlier, and I will fast forward so we don't miss anything. 1 second here. Okay, this was earlier. Check this out. This was earlier when before MBS arrived, and as soon as it goes live, we'll cut back to the live. But yeah, if you could please direct people over here.
Ladies and gentlemen, the President of the United States.
All right, so you're right. That is how you have a presidential welcome. Obviously, if you saw the people who are in attendance, it was Scott Bessent, Howard Lutnick, Marco Rubio, the other gentleman from I think his name is Frost, and obviously Pete Hegseth. So we're going to be talking, obviously, well, they're going to be talking behind closed scenes about economics and defense, war. So those the other cabinet members aren't there. You don't see, Pam Bondi, she's not there. A lot of the other ones. I'm waiting to see where Elon shows up. So that was what happened earlier. Just loved the way that looked. And with all the things glitching on the internet, I wasn't able to broadcast that live. So as soon as President Trump and MBS open up in the Oval Office, it seems right now they're about 15, 20 minutes behind. So good morning. I hope everybody is doing well. Today is a long schedule of events. Some of them will be televised, some of them won't be. This one is televised. What they're going to be doing in the Oval Office is televised. And then what we're also going to be seeing is a dinner tonight at 6 o'clock, which we will televise as well, or broadcast, not televised, but you know what I mean. So in any event, that's what's going on. So while we're waiting, I thought I would jump into something that happened earlier. As you know, we're doing all this stuff today about the Epstein craziness, insanity. And so while he's getting ready to meet with the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, you got other people in the government who are just going off on the Epsteiniac stuff. One of them was Marjorie Taylor Greene, Marjorie Trader Greene, as she will forever be known now. What a stunt she pulled. And then in addition to that, Mike Johnson was back having a press conference in whatever setting they have. And at that press conference, I'm getting a feeling that that they're hoping for this Epstein vote, it's not going to happen. I don't know. It just seems kind of weird what's going on. So I'm going to show you the Mike Johnson press conference while we're waiting for President Trump and MBS to open up the cameras inside the Oval Office. But this is very interesting. Let's take a listen to this.
Good morning, everybody. It's good to see you back. After 43 long days, the Democrats shut down. We are finally back in regular legislative session. We have been very anxious to get here. We spent the last 6 weeks in our districts. Most of the members of the House, at least the House Republicans did, at least 6 weeks they spent in their district, and many of them will tell you, and they've said publicly and privately, they did some of the best work of their career because they were right there with their constituents, at home, in their districts, in their counties, and their parishes, in our case in Louisiana, working with their constituents and helping them navigate the consequences of the Democrats' pointless political games in the shutdown. They did some really important work. And we are ready and eager now to get back to the legislative session work, the other side of this job, so that we can deliver on our promises to the American people. The Republican Party has been doing this, and we will continue. We're going to continue to reduce the cost of health care. We got big plans to do that. We're going to continue reducing prices and the cost of living for American families. And, of course, to finish the rest of the appropriations government funding process. We've been needing to do that, and we are already working around the clock to accomplish those objectives. But with so many pressing issues on our plate, just very frustratingly to us, the Democrats are delaying that work even further with a political show vote. They're forcing a political show vote on the Epstein files. So we're just going to address that right at the top here this morning because they've spent so much time, the Democrats have, spinning the facts and trying to confuse the people that I wanted to come in this morning and just clearly explain for the people back home how we got here and why this vote is happening right now. First, a quick review of the relevant history here. For 4 long years under the previous administration, under the Biden-Harris administration, Democrats insisted there was no border crisis. Remember, they told you that that wasn't a problem at all. They dismissed inflation as transitory. That's what they told us. They told the American people not to believe what we could all see with our own eyes, that there was an obvious mental and physical decline on the part of President Biden individually. And now, seemingly overnight, these same cast of characters, they've taken a sudden and urgent interest in the Epstein investigation. Suddenly, it's all in the name of transparency. That's what they're trying to tell us. But the truth is, the biggest proponents of this discharge petition were never actually interested in transparency or ensuring justice or protecting victims of this unspeakable tragedy, the Epstein evils. And how do we know that? Because the Democrats had every one of the Epstein files in their possession for the 4 long years of the Biden administration. The Biden Department of Justice had the files the entire time. And not a single one of the people who are so loud and animated right now, they never said anything about it for all those 4 years. None of them held press conferences. None of them demanded the release of the documents. And under Biden's DOJ, when they prosecuted just Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, not a single one of these Democrats or any of the proponents of the discharge ever made any noise about that at all. So it's fair for the American people to ask the question, why now? Why suddenly are they so interested? They have such an urgent interest in the Jeffrey Epstein matter. The truth is simple and straightforward and obvious for anyone who is willing to look at it objectively. Clearly, this is a political exercise for Democrats and a few others, sadly, and it is as deceitful and dishonest as their pointless stunt to shut down the government. Same ideology behind this. Democrats are trying to use the Epstein matter as a political weapon to distract from their own party's failures. And in a desperate attempt, they're trying to somehow tie President Trump to the scandal. President Trump has nothing to do with it. He has said himself he has nothing to hide. And that's clearly what they've been trying to do. They're trying to attack President Trump. This is what they've done. They weaponized the justice system over the last several years to go after him, and this is their latest attempt. And they don't have a platform or a principle to defend on the Democrat Party side, so they put all their eggs in this basket. And that's why you hear endlessly about Epstein, Epstein, Epstein. Everything's about Epstein. Now, this was an unspeakable tragedy, we said that. And we have great compassion for the victims. And I'm heartened that I met with the victims, our House Oversight Committee members met with the victims, and they deserve justice. It has been too long delayed. Not just justice for what they were made to endure, but also we need answers on why it took so long for the Department of Justice itself to do that job under previous leadership. Republicans, meanwhile, are working in earnest to deliver transparency to the American people, and we're working to do that in a responsible manner that does no further harm to these innocent people and the victims who have been wrapped into this. There are a few key facts here that everybody needs to understand. First, I mentioned the House Oversight Committee doing its work. That is a bipartisan effort. They are already producing far more than the discharge petition even anticipates. Chairman Comer is our chair of oversight. Some of the biggest bulldogs in Congress serve on that committee, you all know, and I've mentioned this so many times. They have been, on the Republican and Democrat side, they're deeply dug in. They've been working around the clock. They worked even through the government shutdown, and there were tranches of documents that were released even over that period. So far, by last count, it's over 65,000 documents, Epstein file documents, that are now out in the public for everyone to review. That includes tens of thousands of pages from the Epstein estate. And that includes Epstein's flight logs, his personal financial records and ledgers, his daily calendars, and so much more. And none of that is even written or included in the discharge petition. So in other words, the Oversight Committee is doing far more than the discharge even anticipates, and the most valuable information thus far has come from the Epstein estate files. That was produced because of the work of the Oversight Committee that is doing that in a professional, robust manner, using the full subpoena authority of the U.S. Congress. From the very beginning, our side has been insistent that this matter must be handled very carefully and with utmost caution and care for the victims. We want maximum transparency. We have always been about that. We want every single person who had any scintilla of evidence that they were involved in the Epstein evils, they need to be brought to justice, and it should have been done a long time ago. We need to find out who those people are. But in the meantime, you have to remember there are real people's, innocent people's lives at stake here, and young victims who don't want to be dragged into this political game because it could hurt further what they've already endured. They would be made to suffer more harm if Congress is not careful in what we're doing. And unlike our very important work that's underway in the House Oversight Committee, the Democrat-led discharge petition would carelessly dump thousands of documents without proper protections for the innocent. I brought a chart in here this morning. I want to illustrate for you what we are concerned with. Now, I was a federal court litigator. The members of our House Judiciary Committee, Republicans in particular, have many of these concerns. You have Chairman Jim Jordan and attorneys like Chip Roy, who's running for Attorney General of Texas now. You have Brad Knott, who's a former federal prosecutor, many members on the committee. Andy Biggs is running for governor of Arizona. They're lawyers, and they understand that the way the discharge petition was drafted is haphazard and dangerous. This is why we have been opposed to this point, okay? And I could be here for a long time going through all the details of it, but the big concern we've all had all along is that the House bill, if it's passed in its current form and it was signed into law, it is dangerously flawed. And our problem and our frustration is there's no way for us in the House to amend it or correct these problems because the authors of the discharge will not allow it. And that's one of our great frustrations. Let me just very quickly, we have a legal document that the lawyers, we have all drafted to explain all this, but let me give you five quick, maybe the top 5 concerns about it, and there are more. But as drafted, the discharge petition, it fails to fully protect victim privacy. I'm going to read you an excerpt out of our legal document we put together to explain all this. Congress should give the Attorney General broader authority to redact all the victim information. The discharge doesn't do that. This would prevent the release of information that could be used to unmask victims who have chosen to remain anonymous. Now, you have some very brave women who have come forward and put their names and faces out there and done press conferences and explained that justice is overdue, and our hearts go out to them, and they are heroes. But you have as many as 1,000 women, by some of the accounts, who may be caught up in this. And the vast majority of them have not come forward, probably for obvious reasons. They don't want to be unmasked. But the discharge petition doesn't have adequate protections. It risks re-victimizing those who were trafficked and exploited. And the courts have recognized this concern, by the way. I'll read you a quick excerpt. On August 20th of this year, Judge Richard Berman of the Southern District of New York issued an order denying the DOJ's request to release Epstein grand jury materials, noting, quote, names and identifying information of victims appear in the subject materials, unquote. Judge Berman then quoted a letter related to the victims' concerns, which stated the following, quote, transparency cannot come at the expense of the very people whom the justice system is sworn to protect, unquote. And importantly, the judge quoted a letter from one of the victims. In the proceedings, she is named as Jane Doe 2. She said this is one of the victims, quote, I beg the court to make sure it is of the utmost priority that in any sort of release, all and every detail that could possibly reveal our identities be redacted. The victims of Epstein's evils deserve that protection, and the discharge does not currently provide it, okay? Number 2, the discharge petition could create new victims, okay? Because it requires the DOJ to release information even in cases where the DOJ or the FBI has already reviewed it and determined it is not credible, it is false information. Doing this and requiring this to come out could ruin the reputations of completely innocent people, such as those who have may just have known Epstein but knew nothing of his crimes, or whose names he exploited. Think of this, innocent people whose names he exploited and used to try to get close to his intended victims. Their names may be in these files, and they had nothing to do with this. And so by just haphazardly releasing it, you're going to destroy their reputations. Releasing information containing the names of innocent people would subject those innocent people to a guilt by association. It would create an entirely new group of victims who have no means to clear their names. That's a concern of Congress, and it should be. It should be. Number 3, the discharge in its current form fails to prohibit the release of child sexual abuse materials. That is a term of art. It's called CSAM, okay? It's defined in the U.S. Code. The discharge is so haphazardly written, because remember, it's just a political exercise for these guys. They don't seem to care about this, but they cited the wrong section of the U.S. Code. So when they say that we don't want child pornography to come out, child sexual abuse materials, of course, we don't want that released. They wrote this thing so quickly that they cited the wrong section. So you know what that means? It means that it doesn't really bestow any real legal authority on the Attorney General to redact those materials. And that would compel the DOJ to release that stuff into the public. Every single person in this room knows that's wrong, and you should stand against it. But that's what the discharge says. Number 4, it jeopardizes the future federal investigations of the United States. Why? Because the discharge only allows the Attorney General to redact limited portions of records that could publicly identify individuals who were promised confidentiality. In this scenario, you're talking about whistleblowers. You're talking about confidential informants who came forward and gave information and evidence in exchange for agreeing to have their identities not revealed. Violating confidentiality, imagine the chilling effect that would have on future investigations. Who's going to want to come forward if they think Congress can take a political exercise and reveal their identities? Who's going to come talk to prosecutors? It's very dangerous. It would deter future whistleblowers and informants. And the release of that could also publicly reveal the identity, by the way, of undercover law enforcement officers who are working in future operations. Dangerous stuff, and they seem not to care. And by the way, I'm going to remind you again, we went to the authors. We asked the authors of the discharge to change this, and they said jump in the Potomac. All right? Number 5, national security concerns, okay? The discharge requires the Attorney General to release within 30 days, quote, classified information to the maximum extent possible. This ignores the principle that declassification should always rest, and always has rested, with the agency that originated the intelligence. Why? So that they can protect their critical sources and methods. It is incredibly dangerous to demand that officials or employees of the DOJ declassify materials that originated in other agencies, in intelligence agencies. I could go on. I won't be here all morning, but there's a lot of problems. There's also a lot of legal scholars, and I'm among them, who are concerned that that you've got problems with grand jury secrecy. We know Rule 6E of the Federal Rules of Criminal Procedure prohibits the release of grand jury materials, but the way the discharge is drafted, you can make an argument that it requires all that to come out, and that is a serious problem. Grand juries are not adversarial, okay? There's no opportunity there for cross-examination. You can't disprove evidence. You can't challenge the evidence in any way. And if Congress goes in and breaks that seal and just starts releasing sensitive grand jury materials and allegations like that, it raises a risk that the grand jury process will be politicized in the future. And that's a whole other danger that we could talk about all day.
I wanted to jump in because I'm seeing some of the comments where people are like, just go ahead and release it all. So I want you to really sit back and realize, as anxious as you are to get this information out, it has to be done correctly. It's not covering anybody's butt other than the victims. The victims, whoever they are, if you choose not to come forward, you do not have to have your name and likeness put out there for everybody to see. The other ones that have come out, obviously they want to be out in the forefront. But not everybody who was taken advantage of wants anyone else to know. Second part of this is you can't open yourself up for all kinds of lawsuits based upon what this agency said and what this agency said. So I don't believe this is a stall technique. I think, as he said, why don't we do it by the book? We'll do it, but it's got to be done a certain way. And I'm telling you right now, it doesn't matter who comes up with the document. Doesn't matter who writes the actual discharge, as it's called. Someone's going to sue. Just be aware of it. This thing is such a bombastic file, if you want to say, call it that. Whatever this information is, it is so damning to so many people that somebody is going to sue before this stuff is even released. And I think prudent people understand this is going to be a complete nightmare, and we don't know yet who it is that this thing actually will be a problem for. There's no way for us to know. We've never seen it. I haven't seen it. Matter of fact, I don't know who has seen it. But I can pretty much be confident. People have asked me, why am I so confident about Trump not being a problem in it? Is because if they had any information on him, they would have released it. They've released everything on him. They even took his tax returns. Do you remember when Rachel Maddow did her show? Right here, I've got his tax returns. Oh, nothing. So if they had any ammo in these files against Trump, they would have done it some time ago. Are there other Republicans? Possibly. Are there Democrats? Possibly. Big people in business? Possibly. I don't know. But whoever is in these files obviously has the opportunity to understand, here's what's going to be released. And then they're going to run to the court and they're going to say, my privacy is being impugned. This is a nightmare, and it's not going away anytime soon, despite all the political BS.
I'm going to wrap this up and just say that Republicans support maximum transparency. We always have. The President of the United States supports maximum transparency. You've heard him say it in his own words. But he has had the same concerns that I've just articulated here, and we've talked about that. All of us have had these concerns, and we understand that we have a responsibility to innocent people and victims that is not properly guarded by the discharge petition. And that's why we're so incensed about that. We've got to make sure that we disclose the names of anybody who aided or conspired in any way with Jeffrey Epstein. But at the same time, you've got to make sure that innocent people are protected. So we have to do this in a way that doesn't violate victim privacy, that doesn't create new victims, that doesn't disclose the names of any whistleblower or informant, that causes the release of grand jury materials or child sexual abuse materials, or undermines our national security. And I think everybody of good conscience and common sense would say, of course you have to do that. But here we are. So the discharge petition got its 218th signature, and it is going to go forward. It is going to pass because it only takes 218. And we know that the Democrats have disregarded all these concerns, and they're going to move it forward anyway. So all the people of good conscience here say, we've registered our concerns, we stated our opposition as long as possible, but we're also for maximum transparency. So what am I to do as a leader in a situation like this? I call my counterpart in the Senate, Leader Thune, and I talked him through this with him and shared our deep concerns. And of course, they share those concerns as well. And so I'm very confident that when this moves forward in the process, if and when it is processed in the Senate, which there's no certainty that that will be, that they will take the time methodically to do what we have not been allowed to do in the House, to amend this discharge petition and to make sure that these protections are there.
All right, so you understand what he just said. He called John Thune. He goes, I can't do anything. They've got the votes. They're going to push this through. John Thune's like, okay, I got it from here. And at this point, he's going to make sure the protections are put in. So I don't see this thing coming out anytime soon. Anybody who's thinking it's coming out today, tomorrow, whatever it is that is coming out, there's nothing coming out anytime soon. I bet you we don't see even movement until probably, I don't know, before Christmas. I don't know how they're going to drag their feet on this. But right now, okay, and so understand, you just went through the entire shutdown argument, where things have to go to the House, then the House takes it to the Senate, then the Senate does whatever it does. If the Senate doesn't go along with everything that the House did, then it gets kicked back once again into the House to review. It just goes like this. Hey, I want to change paragraph 9. All right, let's send it back to them, and back and forth it will go until they can agree on the entire thing.
The authors of the discharge did not allow us to do that here. That's the rules here. But in the Senate, they can correct it. So under that circumstance, because of that, we know there's serious deficiencies. We know that the work of our colleagues in the Senate can address that and will. They're very conscientious and concerned, as we are, about all this. As we've insisted from the very beginning, Republicans are the only party trying to make a material difference in ensuring maximum transparency. Oh, by the way, I would just tell you, I put the bill on the floor for unanimous consent last Wednesday night. And guess who objected to it? The Democrats, okay? If this is so urgent, and they were so concerned about getting this done and seeing justice be done and all that, they would not have blocked the request, okay? This is about politics. They blocked our unanimous consent motion to expedite their bill and made us waste all this additional time so they could have a show vote today. Republicans are ready to get the job done, to move forward so we can continue to get on to these important issues of dealing with what the American people demand and deserve for us to deal with. And so I want to leave you with this thought. Everybody should think long and hard about who here is acting truthfully, honestly, and in good faith. It is not the Democrat Party that has obfuscated and blatantly lied for the last 4 years about all these things. It is not the Democrats who shut down the government for their own selfish political purposes. It is not the Democrats who blocked the passage of this discharge a week ago because they wanted to have a political moment. It is the Republicans who are acting in good faith, and I believe the American people are going to see that and understand it. I'm going to vote to move this forward. I think it could be close to a unanimous vote because everybody here, all the Republicans, want to go on record to show they're for maximum transparency, but they also want to note that we're demanding that this stuff get corrected before it is ever moves through the process and is completed. I sincerely hope my Democrat colleagues will show the same level of urgency and enthusiasm when it comes to tackling the real issues facing the country that we got to get to, and that's what we really wanted to talk about this morning. Affordability issues are real, and the Democrats themselves created the crisis. Remember, over the last 4 years of the Biden administration, they spent like drunken sailors, and when you throw a bunch of new money into the system, it makes inflation rise, right? Republicans are ready and eager to continue our work to clean up the mess that the Democrats made. We've been doing that already, and we're going to continue to do it. Joining the leadership team this morning to discuss our record-setting success and our continued efforts to bring back affordability, to lower the cost of living, to lower the cost of health care, and have abundant American energy are two of our Republican colleagues who are leading the charge on this issue. And Chairman Brett Guthrie, you'll hear from in a moment, from Energy and Commerce, will speak with you, and Congressman Nick Begich of Alaska, great state of Alaska, is going to address it as well. But I'll first turn it over to our chair of our conference, Lisa McClain.
Thank you. Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome back. So let me start with this. House Republicans will not allow Democrats to distract us. And we will not allow any more obstructions to stop us from doing the work of the American people. Because the American people sent us here to do a job, and that's what we intend to do. The Democrats' shutdown never stopped us. The countless witch hunts against President Trump never stopped us either. And the latest discharge petition is just another Democrat distraction. And I can assure you that won't stop us either, because the American people actually expect us to do our jobs and not to distract and obstruct. For more than 40 days, Democrats inflicted needless pain on hardworking Americans. And I ask you this, for what? For what did all of these Americans suffer pain? They did it to use the American people's pain as political leverage. And let that sink in for a second. And don't take my word for it, take Catherine Clark's word for that. They used the leverage for $1.5 trillion of a wish list for that Americans' families just simply can't afford. But Democrats, they didn't get a single one of their demands.
So as she's going into some of the finance stuff, let me show you how bad this Epstein release is going to be, and how a bunch of people who didn't think they were going to get caught up in it are realizing now, oh shizzles, oh my goodness, what the heck is happening? There's been a very prominent Trump critic, a guy who has been just for the last 8-9 years has been doing everything he possibly can to just try and destroy President Trump. Well, guess what? His name is in the Epstein files. That came out. His name is Larry Summers. And if you guys are ever on X, he's all over the place. Former Harvard president Larry Summers announced he will be stepping back from all public commitments in an effort to, quote, rebuild trust after a document showed he asked Jeffrey Epstein for advice on pursuing an affair with a female mentee. I am deeply ashamed of my actions and recognize the pain that they have caused. No, you're not. No, you're not. You're telling me on November 18th of 2025, all of a sudden you're ashamed. No, what you're ashamed of is that it got revealed. This is the same guy who's been trashing Trump for nearly 10 years. Called Trump every name in the book until it was like, oops. Oh, you got that email? Yeah, we got that email. You sure you want this stuff released? I'm deeply ashamed. The announcement comes less than 1 week after 7 years of correspondence between Summers and the disgraced financier Jeffrey Epstein were released by Republicans on the House Oversight Committee. The document showed Summers and Epstein continued to exchange messages until July 5th, 2019, 1 day before he was arrested. Summers to step back from public commitments amid Epstein scandal, as the Harvard Crimson put out. Yeah, I bet he did. I was ashamed. Now. And then there's another big name whose name has been associated with communicating with Epstein for quite some time, and I'm not sure how that's going to come out. And that guy is Steve Bannon. There's a whole lot of people, a whole lot of periphery who are going to be caught up in this mess, and I don't think any of it is Donald Trump. I think it's guys like this. Guys who thought they could get away with this and trash Trump and thinking it would never, ever come out. Now you're going to step away? Why would you be stepping away from public exposure at this point? Maybe because they're going to rip you a new one all over X and everywhere else of being an absolute hypocrite. You're a scumbag. Big time scumbag. How dare you point fingers at President Trump, and you were all up in Epstein stuff. This is one of the reasons why initially I was like, yeah, we need to find out so we can help these women. But at the same time, I'm like, just careful what you ask for. I'm sure Steve Bannon's butthole was crimping up at some time because now he's all mixed up in it. And I'm sure he's got a big enough audience where he'll try to beat it back. But the fact that, yeah, people are going to ask him questions. What in the hell were you doing? Why were you talking to him up until the day he got arrested? I don't know where this is going, but it doesn't look good for a whole lot of people.
Because House Republicans actually stayed united. And now we're taking that momentum into the fight that matters most to the American people. This week, House Republicans will pass consequential bills to make energy costs more affordable. Bills that will lower energy costs.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but it gets even worse. If it could get worse. This guy, Larry Summers, was Bill Clinton's Treasury Secretary and Barack Obama's Director of the National Economic Council. And of course, now that he's been exposed, the woman he was trying to get here comes the feed. The woman he was trying to get in bed with is a Chinese Communist Party official. What? Mind-blowing. Mind-blowing as the cameraman down here is getting everything straight. Understand that. It was a woman in the Communist Party. I'll get back to the Mike Johnson press conference as President Trump. The feed has just come up, so we'll cut to that.
He's a good guy. I'm giving you a build-up. Good guy. He is. Yes, definitely. He's a performer. That's amazing. And you know what? And I will always follow. Well, thank you very much, everybody. We have a extremely respected man in the Oval Office today, and a friend of mine for a long time, a very good friend of mine. And I'm very proud of the job he's done. What he's done is incredible in terms of human rights and everything else. And he's the Crown Prince, the future king, and I just want to pay my greatest respect to your father, the king, who is an amazing man. I met him early on. He greeted me at the airport at an age that was pretty high up there, and it was about 117 degrees, and he was standing on the red carpet as I came out of the plane. And he's amazing. And when I met his brilliant son, it was at the Oval Office. Shortly thereafter, you came in representing the country, and I called the father. I said, this guy is fantastic. And I don't know if that helped you or hurt you, but obviously it couldn't have hurt too much, because here you are, right? But we had a great meeting, and the office has changed quite a bit. And we inherited a mess. You actually told me you thought the country was in big trouble. I'm not going to use the exact word that you use. I refuse to say that you thought our country was dead a year and a half, 2 years ago. But our country was in trouble, and now we have the hottest country in the world. You said that also. And we do. We have the United States is right now the hottest country in the world. And between the tariffs and the election, November 5th election, we've done things that nobody can believe. $21 trillion will be the amount invested in the United States or committed to invest in 1 year. So I'm here 9 months. We're up to almost $18 trillion. Biden, as an example, the Biden administration, if you call it that, it's not, to me, it was the Biden lack of administration. They were less than $1 trillion for 4 years. We're going to be $21 trillion for 1 year. I think that's hard to believe. The biggest in history was a certain country, $3 trillion. We're going to be $21 trillion. On top of that, prices are coming down. We inherited a mess with high prices, the worst inflation in the history of our country. We had inflation that was a single 4 years, the worst inflation in the history of the United States. Gas prices through the roof, and that's after destroying our petroleum reserve, which was meant for wars and big emergencies, not to try and win an election. They opened up the reserve so that people get $3 less in gasoline, and it didn't work. They got about 3 cents less, because as big as those reserves are, they're peanuts when you're talking about that kind of traffic. And we're rebuilding the reserves. We're doing all of this, and we've done a job. We're also bringing down prices very substantially, and we've already brought them down very, very substantially. Gasoline is way down. I think you'll be seeing $2 gasoline, but we're now at $2.50, $2.45. Some are lower than that. It was $4.50, $5, $6, $3.50, $3.75 under Biden, all different numbers, but way high. And we have energy way down. But the biggest thing to me, because I know what it means in jobs, is the fact that we're at over $17 trillion, Scott, and we expect to be around $21 trillion in 1 year. And that's many times bigger than, in history, the highest number was $3 trillion. And we're going to be at $21 trillion. That means new plants, new AI, new auto plants. We have auto plants coming in from Canada, from Mexico, from Germany, from Japan. Toyota just agreed to invest $10 billion on new auto plants, all American workers. We've never been in a position like this. You can go back to the beginning. Our country has never been in a position like this, and it really is because of the fact that we use tariffs to bring all this money in. And you're going to see the results in a year when these plants start to open up. We have more plants under construction now than at any time in the history of our country. And these are big plants. These are the biggest plants anywhere in the world. And I want to thank you because you've agreed to invest $600 billion into the United States. And because he's my friend, he might make it $1 trillion, but I'm going to have to work on him. But it's 600. We can count on 600 billion, but that number could go up a little bit higher, yes, or I don't know. We'll see. But we appreciate it very much. So Saudi is going to be investing at least $600 billion, and that means investments in plants, in companies, money on Wall Street, and what it really means for everybody that really counts is jobs, a lot of jobs. We have a lot of jobs. So I just want to thank you. We've been really good friends for a long period of time. We've always been on the same side of every issue. I think we've done a great job in wiping out the nuclear capacity of Iran. Nobody else could have done that. No other president would have done it. We had the pilots in the Oval Office right here. We were celebrating a very successful attack. So I had them in with that beautiful B-2 bomber that's over there. And they said, sir, for 22 years, we practiced this attack. Our predecessors, these were very young guys, so 22 years, they said our predecessors and us practiced the attack on Iran, but no president ever gave us the go-ahead. 3 times a year they went out and they practiced the attack. Nobody let us do it until you came along, and I let them do it because it was the right thing to do. You can't have a nuclear Iran. And so we put you in a very good position. But I just want to say it's an honor to be your friend, and it's an honor that you're here. And if you'd like to say a few words, but thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Mr. President. This relation has been a relation for about 9 decades, and we've been working together for a long time. But today it's very important time in our history, because there is also a lot of things that we're working on in the future. We believe in the future of the United States of America. We believe in what you're doing, Mr. President, really creating a lot of good things and good foundation to create more economic growth, more business in America. And it will also your work for the world peace. I believe, Mr. President, today and tomorrow we're going to announce that we are going to increase that $600 billion to almost $1 trillion of investment, real investment and real opportunity by details in many areas. And the agreement that we are signing today in many areas in technology, in AI, in earth materials, magnet, etc., that will create a lot of investment opportunities.
So you are doing that now. You're saying to me now that the $600 billion will be $1 trillion.
Definitely, because what we are signing, it will facilitate that, and
I like that very much.
$1
No,
trillion.
that's great. I appreciate that. That's great.
$1 trillion.
No, we're doing numbers that nobody's ever done. And in all fairness, if you didn't see potential in the U.S., you wouldn't be doing that.
Definitely.
You don't want to lose money.
As you said, Mr. President, it's the most hottest country in the planet. But what you're creating is not about opportunity today. It's about also long-term opportunity in the United States of America that will affect American economy positively in the next coming decades. Preparing the right foundation of emerging technologies, that's a game changer for America in a good way, and we want to be part of it.
Yeah, we're doing really well. And this, you don't see what we're doing so much because we have, although the construction industry sees it. If you look at Caterpillar, who's been incredible, the tractors, everything else, the numbers that we're doing in construction are unbelievable. Some of the plants that we're building, AI, and they're building their own electric with the plant. I gave them the right to build their own electric with the plant because no country, frankly, will have this. China's working very hard to produce enough electric, but we're beating China substantially at AI, which is a big thing. And we had a great meeting 2 weeks ago with President Xi, but on AI, we're doing well. And I have a man, David Rommel.
Yes, sir.
David, could you say a few words about what you're seeing on the job front and all of the some of the assets, and also how we've been helped by the Saudis in terms of the kind of investment they've made, please.
Yeah, most certainly. Thank you for the opportunity. I am a facility leader for GE Vernova, and if you look at the landscape for GE Vernova investment, over $750 million in the U.S. focused on true manufacturing jobs here stateside. We're looking at tripling the output of our Greenville, South Carolina facility, where we make the gas turbines that are supporting U.S. needs as well as the Saudi Arabia needs.
Right.
So real jobs, $300 million in gas investment, resulting in over 500 pieces of new equipment being installed in the Greenville, South Carolina facility. That translates into roughly 1,800 jobs across the board for GE Vernova as we try to scale capacity to be able to meet this demand. Along with that, we're partnering with local communities to build the skill set that's required to meet these capacity needs. So that talent pipeline is incredibly important. So it's real jobs in the manufacturing space.
Well, you've been great, and thank you very much. And we love that state. I won that state by record numbers. I won a lot of states by record. Texas, a lot of them by Indiana. We're working with Indiana or something right now. We won that. We won a lot of them by records, but that was one of them. I want to thank you very much. Say hello to everybody. Great job. You're doing a great job. Thank you. So just in wrapping up, we'll take a couple of questions, but I want to just tell you what an honor it is to be your friend. And I very much appreciate the investment of now $1 trillion, okay? I'm glad you got that out. I didn't want to be the one to tell them, but that's great news.
We keep increasing, Mr. President.
I know.
Each time the opportunities are just increasing more and more.
Well, the opportunities, right? We're doing better. If even if you look back 6 months ago, I mean, now all of a sudden you feel even better. So, and I think we're only going to go in one way. Does anybody have any questions?
Mr. President, have you approved the export licenses for advanced chips to Saudi Arabia? The export licenses?
We are working on that. We're negotiating that right now. Marco, do you want to talk about that, or Scott?
Okay, well, I mean, that's part of, we may have announcements on that later today, but that's what we've been working on is the mechanics by which something like that could be achieved. And it's part of the broader process, part of this broader engagement and cooperation between our two countries.
Certain levels of chips. Yeah.
And for the Crown Prince, Your Royal Highness, You're talking about $1 trillion of investment. Could the kingdom continue to do that with oil prices in the mid-60s?
We are not creating a fake opportunities to, please America, please President Trump. It's real opportunities. For example, when you ask about the AI and the chips, Saudi Arabia have a huge demand a huge need of computing power, and we're gonna spend in the short term around $50 billion by consuming those semiconductors for our needs in Saudi Arabia. And with the agreement that we're gonna have with North America, that will allow us to focus that consuming power in the short term by $50 billion from the North of America, and long term with hundreds of billions of dollars in the long term. So there's a lot of real opportunities that fit to our need in Saudi Arabia and fit to our investment strategy.
Mr. President, is it appropriate, Mr. President, for your family to be doing business in Saudi Arabia while you're president? Is that a conflict of interest? And Your Royal Highness, the U.S. intelligence concluded that you orchestrated the brutal murder of a journalist. 9/11 families are furious that you are here in the Oval Office. Why should Americans trust you? And the same to you, Mr. President.
Now, who are you with?
I'm with ABC News, sir.
You're with who?
ABC News, sir.
Fake news, ABC fake news, one of the
But the
worst,
question is
one of the
legitimate,
worst
sir.
in the business. But I'll answer your question.
What a piece of crap.
I have nothing to do with the family business. I have left, and when I've devoted 100% of my energy. What my family does is fine. They do business all over. They've done very little with Saudi Arabia, actually. I'm sure they could do a lot. And anything they've done has been very good. That's what we've done. We've built a tremendous business for a long time. I've been very successful. I decided to leave that success behind and make America very successful. And I've made America more successful by far than it ever was, and that it ever could have been, no matter who was president. There would be nobody bringing in $21 trillion, that I can tell you right now. As far as this gentleman is concerned, he's done a phenomenal job. You're mentioning somebody that was extremely controversial. A lot of people didn't like that gentleman that you're talking about. Whether you like him or didn't like him, things happen. But he knew nothing about it, and we can leave it at that. You don't have to embarrass our guest by asking a question like that.
Okay, just you ask, Mr. President, if you allow me to answer. I feel painful about, the families of 9/11 in America, but, we have to focus on reality. Reality based on CIA documents and based on a lot of documents that Osama bin Laden, he used Saudi people in that event for one main purpose, is to destroy this relation, to destroy the American-Saudi relation. That's the purpose of 9/11. So whoever buying that means they are helping Osama bin Laden's purpose of destroying this relation. He knows that strong relation between America and Saudi Arabia, it's bad for extremism, it's bad for terrorism. And we have to approve him wrong and to build our relation, to continue developing our relation. It's critical in the safety of the world. It's critical against extremism and terrorism. About the journalists, it's really painful to hear, anyone that been losing his life for, no real purpose or not in a legal way. And it's been painful for us in Saudi Arabia. We've did all the right steps of investigation, etc. in Saudi Arabia, and we've improved our system to be sure that nothing happened like that. And it's painful and it's a huge mistake, and we are doing our best that this doesn't happen again.
Mr. President, thank you, Mr. President. The Crown Prince has been instrumental in helping lifting the sanctions on Syria. Will there be any joint investment between the U.S. and Syria? And will you visit Damascus?
Are you from Syria?
No, but
Where are you from?
I'm from Palestine.
Oh, you're making a lot of progress, huh? Very good. Well, they like me. The Palestinians like me. The Palestinians are doing very well, actually. I think we're working very closely with a lot of people that make everybody happy, including Israel, the Palestinians, and everybody. That's very interesting. No, I think that I will tell you, the Crown Prince called me, and he specifically asked me if I would lift the sanctions on Syria, because he wants to see Syria make it. As you know, the leader of Syria was just here, and we had a great meeting, and he's a strong guy, and I guess you need a strong person to run it. And I think Syria's made tremendous progress. We did lift the sanctions at the request of the Crown Prince. Also, the president of Turkey, Erdogan, called me specifically. He said, if you don't lift the sanctions, Syria doesn't have a chance. If you do, they have a very good chance. And between the two of them and some others, I lifted the sanctions. And the results so far have been pretty good.
Mr. President, can I ask you a question about the F-35s that are being sold to Saudi Arabia? Are these the same ones that are being used by the Israeli military? And if so, how does that allow for the qualitative military edge for Israel? And then I want to ask you, because you brought up the plight of the Palestinians, are you aware of relocation flights to South Africa that are taking place right now?
Which flights?
There are relocation flights that are taking place. Some Palestinians are being charged up to $2,000
I'm not going to South Africa for the G20 because I think their policies on the extermination of people are unacceptable. So I'm not going. So I won't refer to anything having to do with South Africa. South Africa has behaved extremely badly. But I will say that when you look at the F-35 and you're asking me, is it the same? I think it's going to be pretty similar, yeah. You know,
how will that
this is a great ally, and Israel's a great ally. And I know they'd like you to get planes of reduced caliber. I don't think that makes you too happy. They've been a great ally. Israel's been a great ally. And we're looking at that exactly right now. But as far as I'm concerned, I think they are both at a level where they should get top of the line. Yes, please.
Can I just quickly ask for the Crown Prince, if I could just ask about the direct talks between U.S.
It's all right. Steve, 1 second. Go ahead.
Have you reached an agreement on a U.S.-Saudi defense treaty today? And are you going to bring up the Abraham Accords in your discussion?
I already brought them up.
What did you say?
I think I got a positive response. Would you like to respond?
Yeah, so definitely we believe having a good relation with all Middle Eastern countries is a good thing, and we want to be part of the Ibrahim Accord, but we want also to be sure that we secure a clear path of two-state solution. And today we have a healthy discussion with Mr. President that we're going to work on that to be sure that we can prepare the right situation as soon as possible to have that.
I think we're, you know, I don't want to use the word commitment, but we've had a very good talk on the Abraham Accords. We talked about one state, two state. You know, we talked about a lot of things in a short period of time. We'll be discussing it further, too. But I think you have a very good feeling toward the Abraham Accords.
Yes, definitely, Mr. President. We want peace for the Israelis. We want peace for the Palestinians. We want them to coexist peacefully in the region. And we will do our best to reach that day.
And the defense agreement, have you reached agreement on that?
We pretty much have.
Quick question for the Crown Prince, if I could just finish.
We have reached agreement on that. Okay.
I wanted to ask you about the direct talks between the United States and Iran. Have you been fully briefed on that, and are you concerned at all about how this might impact Saudi security interests?
Well, we are close ally. We'll be working closely together on that issue, and we will do our best to help to reach a deal between the United States of America and Iran. And we believe it's good for Iran's future to have a good deal that will satisfy the region and the world and the rest of America. So we will do our best to see that day happen.
And by the way, Iran does want to make a deal. I can say I think they very badly want to make a deal. I am totally open to it, and we're talking to them, and we start a process. But it would be a nice thing to have a deal with Iran, and we could have done it before the war, but that didn't work out. And something will happen there, I think. But they would very much like, I mean, they may say something else, but they would very much like to have a deal.
Mr. President, you announced that you are going to sell 35 F-35 jets. You are planning, you said you are planning to sell the F-35 jets to Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
Is it part of the security agreement? And how you assess the defense partnership between Saudi Arabia and the United States? And the question for
Well, I just said it, though. I mean, we're going to sell them F-35s. That's the end of the question, I guess.
Is it part of the security agreement or no?
No, we're going to have a deal. They're going to purchase F-35s. They're buying them from Lockheed, and it's a great plane. We make, by the way, the best military equipment. You saw that during the Iran little skirmish. We make the best planes, the best missiles. We make the best offensive missiles. We make the best military equipment in the world.
Nice. For His Royal Highness, I would like to ask you about how you see the cooperation between the United States and Saudi Arabia in the advanced technological field, especially AI, and how it will support Saudi Arabia to serve its goals to achieve the vision of 2030.
Well, I will try to answer that in short, but definitely there's a lot of interest in many industries between Saudi Arabia and America, and we are signing a lot of agreements in different areas that will really add value to American economy, but also to add value to us in Saudi Arabia. And AI, it's critical for us because one of long-term problems that we could have is lack of workforce. As you've seen in the past few years, some of them have reached 30% of the global migration to Saudi Arabia. So we know that to assure the Saudi Arabia GDP growing, with the lack of workforce that we have, we need to use a lot of computing power to replace job in the long term. So that's huge demand in Saudi Arabia, and we want to link it to American private sectors and getting the supply from America. So there's a lot of opportunities in that area.
And we're also involved in AI in Saudi Arabia. So we're working, and we're leading by a lot on AI. Actually a lot. China would be in second place, but we're leading by a lot. And I have to say this, and our relationship with China has been very good. And as far as buying our farm products, they're pretty much on schedule, Scott. I'd like you to call them, say if they could speed it up, it would be good. Okay, but they're pretty much on schedule.
I'm sorry, Lydia, please. If I may, I have a question for both the Crown Prince and President.
Who are you? Where are you from?
Faisal Abbas from Arab News, Saudi Arabia, Your Excellency.
You should be a friendly question.
Your Royal Highness, just picking up on something you've just mentioned about how some people try to destroy the relationship between Saudi Arabia and the United States. Perhaps, since the launch of the vision, we've been used to having the bigger picture and that everything fits into the bigger picture. Might you want to elaborate a little bit about where is the relationship, the bilateral relationship, the strategic partnership between Saudi Arabia and the United States heading, and what's the big picture there?
Well, I don't think it's a relation that we can replace it from the Saudi side or the American side. It's a critical relationship for our political attempt, for our economical attempt, for our security, for our military, for many things. And it has been there for 9 decades. And the opportunities that we have today, it's huge. And it seems that it's going to get deeper in the next few decades. And what we are having today and tomorrow with President Trump, it's really a huge new chapter on this relation that will add value to both of us.
You know, when you think about it, I'm just sitting here. You're with the future king, a man who's respected by everybody, a man that doesn't have to be doing this, really. I don't have to be doing it either. And yet we're sitting here taking questions. We didn't say, oh, you can't talk about this. And there's never been transparency like this, even in his country. But there's never been, in our country, that's been acknowledged. But we didn't put restrictions. And I'm saying it's sort of wonderful to be taking questions from all over the world. Everybody's here. This is just a small group representative of tremendous numbers of media that are outside, that are very jealous that these people were so selected. But they're representing a lot of people that are outside. I think it's terrific that we could be sitting here being this open, and, I think it's really a wonderful thing. Yeah.
If you don't mind, I have a personal question for you.
Okay, here we go. I should have said that.
So apart from everything you mentioned in your opening remarks, you forgot to mention that you've de-escalated 7 wars since you started. At least in our part of the world, you are seen as a peacemaker. And adding that to all the executive orders and everything else you've mentioned, I really have to wonder, in your speech in Saudi Arabia, I was there, you said that His Royal Highness does not sleep at night thinking how he does things better. We wonder in Saudi Arabia, how do you manage your own time, and what's your formula for management?
He does not sleep much, and I don't sleep much. I think we have the same schedule. We're thinking about our countries. And if you sleep a lot and you're president, we just had one that slept more than any president. He broke every record. He sleeps all the time, during the day, during the night, on the beach. The only guy could fall asleep on the beach with the press watching. No, he's not a sleeper. I'm not a sleeper. We don't. We talk at night. We can talk. I can call him almost any time. He goes, hi, how you doing? It's like at craziest times. But no, when you love your job, when you love your country, and when you're in a position like we are, future king, highly respected, crown prince, and in my case, president, you're thinking about your country. You're thinking about making America great again. We're thinking about keeping Saudi Arabia strong and vital, and in a pretty tough part of the world, tricky part, right? Tricky part, a lot of tricky people. But he thinks about his country, and I think about my country. I don't want to sleep.
President Trump, do you expect a formal civil nuclear deal to be reached soon? Can you talk to us about that aspect of today's with Saudi Arabia?
I can see that happening. Yeah.
Do you think that an agreement will happen today?
It's not urgent. it's always, when you have civil nuclear, but you have more oil than almost anybody else. We actually have more oil and gas than they do, but I refuse to say that.
And
We have more than, we have more than anybody, can you imagine?
And on the F-35s, are those sales, Israel had reportedly wanted those sales to be conditioned on Saudi Arabia moving to normalized relations.
Israel will be happy. Israel is going to be
That a
happy.
condition of the F-35?
Israel's aware, and they're going to be very happy. Okay?
Robin.
Yeah, please. Hello.
Hi, hello. My name is Amal Hazani from Sharq al-Awsat newspaper, from Riyadh, of course. I have a question for the Crown Prince and for you, Mr. President. Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, how much you expected from developing the cooperation with the United States in the field of new energy, AI, supply chain? How much you expected from that?
No limit. We just continue pushing forward. There's no limit. So we just push forward for all the opportunities that we have.
This is, you have to understand, this is really a great ally. Just the fact that they're now doing, I came in here at 6, I did not know that. I was pushing for the 1 trillion, but he didn't tell me that. Now he told me. This is a great ally of ours. You know, when you invest $1 trillion, that's national security for us too, because it creates jobs, it creates a lot of things. And I would say, Scott, right, when you hear one country is putting $1 trillion into the United States, that creates national security. And, you know, I think that they don't have to say that, but I think a big part of that is also the fact that tariffs are in play. But even beyond tariffs, that's a real ally that will do that, creates a lot of power for the United States.
Mr. President, we are also in Saudi Arabia very happy because this much of Saudi the money is a function here, and of course it's come back for us for benefits. So it's complementary interest. So this is the I think what's different the friends and ally do.
Well, look, I love the country of Saudi Arabia. I know the people very well. The level of treatment that we go when we go to Saudi Arabia is something that is incredible. And the people like us, and I think they really like America, especially when I'm president. I mean, I don't think they liked America so much maybe for 4 years recently. I think Obama treated Saudi Arabia very, very badly, as you know. And I think Biden didn't have any idea where the hell he was. I don't think Biden knew the difference.
How would you describe the future relationship with Saudi Arabia? I mean, from the strategic aspects, how would you describe that?
Say the relationship is with?
Yeah, the of economic.
I would say
politics
top
and
of the
relationship.
line. It's as good as it can. I don't think it can get much better. We have a country that trusts us, and that's why they make that investment. If they didn't trust us, they couldn't make that investment. And we trust them. They've been very reliable. Now I rebuilt our military in my first term, and we spent trillions of dollars, and we gave away some of it in Afghanistan stupidly because we had stupid people running our country. But we gave away, but that's as much as it was. It's a tiny fraction of what we put here. And we're bringing our military to a new level, the highest level ever. We have those plants are going out. And again, it's all American jobs and everything, so it's good for a lot of reasons. But as far as Saudi is concerned, no, I don't think our relationship could be better. I don't think they had a great relationship under Biden, and I don't think they had a great relationship under Obama. But they have a great relationship under Trump. When we did the presidential Walk of Fame, you saw that, right? And we're walking, and I asked the Crown Prince, so outside of Trump, because I blow everyone away, who was the best president for Saudi Arabia? And you could, maybe, it's an interesting answer, I don't know.
Roosevelt, who started it, which is a Democrat. And Reagan, he's one of the historical presidents that have close ties with Saudi Arabia. But we've worked with all presidents.
Does Trump blow them all away?
No, it's another league, Mr. President.
Mr. President,
And Trump doesn't give a fist pump. I grabbed that hand. I don't give a hell where that hand's been. I grabbed that hand. Remember Biden? He travels for 20 hours, gets out, and he gives a fist bump. No. When you get out of the plane and you got the future king and the man who's one of the most respected people in the world, you shake his hand. You don't give him a fist bump, right? We don't want to ask you about that, but I can't imagine you were thrilled. You were like a little bit surprised. He's a fantastic guy. You don't do that. Yeah, please.
We're getting closer to the end of the year. Have you started the interviews for the Fed chair?
Yes.
Who have you interviewed?
I think I already know my choice.
Who is it?
Well, I liked him, but he's not going to take the job. He refused. You like Treasury better, right?
Much better, sir.
So we are talking to various people. And frankly, I'd love to get the guy currently in there out right now. But people are holding me back. He's done a terrible job, hurting housing a little bit. The truth is, we've been so successful, we've blown past his interest rate stupidity. He's been wrong. That's why I call him too late. He's too late. Jerome Too Late Powell. He was recommended to me by a guy that made a bad choice. And it's too bad. But despite that, it's having very little impact because we have all of these things happening. But it has an impact on housing to a certain extent. He's a fool. He's a stupid man. But we have some very good people.
Yes, sir. You'll be sitting down with them in the near future. And
we have some surprising names, and we have some standard names that everybody's talking about. And we may go the standard way. It's nice to every once in a while go politically correct. But we have some great names. Steve,
Have
please.
you talked to President Maduro of Venezuela yet? Are you still open to that?
He wants to talk.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'm open to talk. I talk to everybody. But no, he wants to. They treated us very badly. They sent all of their prison population into the United States, and we're getting them out rapidly. But he sent all of his, and he sends drugs into the United States and other things. No, he treated us badly. He was dealing with a bad president, and he was able to get away. We have now, I think we have the strongest borders anywhere in the world. Nobody's coming in unless they come in legally. We're taking very weak borders where millions of people came in. For the last 6 months, I don't do these reports. They say 0 people have been able to come in. Is that pretty good?
Mr. President, why wait for Congress to release the Epstein files? Why not just do it now?
It's not the question that I mind, it's your attitude. I think you are a terrible reporter. It's the way you ask these questions. You start off with a man who's highly respected, asking him a horrible, insubordinate, and just a terrible question. And you could even ask that same exact question nicely. You're all psyched up. Somebody psychs you over at ABC. They're going to psych. You're a terrible person and a terrible reporter. As far as the Epstein files is, I have nothing to do with Jeffrey Epstein. I threw him out of my club many years ago because I thought he was a sick pervert. And I guess I turned out to be right. But you know who does have? Bill Clinton, Larry Summers, who ran Harvard, was with him every single night, every single weekend. They lived together. They went to his island many times. I never did. Andrew Weissman, I hear. All these guys were friends of his. You don't even talk about those people. You just keep going on the Epstein files. And what the Epstein is a Democrat hoax to try and get me not to be able to talk about the $21 trillion that I talked about today. It's a hoax. Now, I just got a little report, and I put it in my pocket, of all the money that he's given to Democrats. He gave me none, 0, no money to me. But he gave money to Democrats. And people are wise to your hoax. And ABC's, your company, your crappy company, is one of the perpetrators. And I'll tell you something.
So why not just sign it now?
I think the license should be taken away from ABC because your news is so fake and it's so wrong. And we have a great commissioner, the chairman, who should look at that, because I think when you come in and when you're 97% negative to Trump, and then Trump wins the election in a landslide, that means obviously your news is not credible, and you're not credible as a reporter. So I've answered your question. You should go and look at the Democrats who received money from Epstein, who spent their time. Larry Summers was with him all the time. That creep, the fund guy, was with him all the time. What's his name? Who? Reid Hoffman. I don't know Reid Hoffman, but I know he spends a lot of money on the radical left. Reid Hoffman, in my opinion, should be under investigation. He's a sleazebag. And those are the people, but they don't get any press, they don't get any news, and you're not after the radical left because you're a radical left network. But I think the way you ask a question with the anger and the meanness is terrible. You ought to go back and learn how to be a reporter. No more questions from you.
I want to ask you, how much money is Saudi Arabia giving for Gaza reconstruction?
We are in discussion about that. Still, there is no amount being
It'll be a lot.
named, but we will definitely help.
Yeah, he's going to. It's very important to him.
And a quick follow-up: the International Security Force. Given your pledge, there would be no U.S. boots on the ground. What is the U.S. role going to be in that? And how do you sort of ratify the allegations that this could undermine Palestinian sovereignty and even the path to statehood?
I think we're going to get along great with the Palestinians, and we know their leadership. We just had a very, you hate to say war, but it was a war. Very, very successful. And you could say really it was on behalf of everybody. We did that on behalf of everybody. And the outcome was extraordinary because we had the best pilots, the best equipment, the best planes, the best everything. And Israel bought the best equipment. They bought it from us. Everything's from us. It all starts here. This office, I was talking to the Crown Prince a little while. You walk into this office, for somebody from the outside, the Oval Office, it's the most powerful place in the world. You're standing right now in the most powerful place in the world. And no matter how big you are, these are the biggest people, the richest people. They walk into this office. It's special, isn't it? Look at him. He's so happy to be here. But you walk into this office. It's the Oval Office. And we've done a lot of good with this office. I've stopped actually 8 wars. I appreciated your question before. But I've actually stopped 8 wars. I have another one to go with Putin. I'm a little surprised at Putin. It's taken longer than I thought. But we stopped India and Pakistan. I could go through the list. You know the list better than I do. I'm very proud. And I stopped one that was almost ready to start again. There was one that was ready to start. And they're doing very well. So and it all took place right here in the Oval Office, whether by telephone or whether by they came in. Many of these leaders have come in, and they signed their peace deals right here in the Oval Office. So no matter if it's the biggest business people in the world or the greatest leaders in the world, the biggest leaders in the world, like the gentleman on my right, everybody walks into the Oval Office and they say, wow. And now, by the way, the Oval Office is in the kind of condition that it should be in. Whether you look at the walk or the marble floors or anything down the road, we're fixing the White House. We're building one of the greatest ballrooms ever to be built. We have an event tonight, and we're going to have about 118 people because we have a very small room. For 150 years, they've wanted a ballroom, and now you're going to get a great ballroom. And I have to say, I probably made a lot of enemies because in your honor, we're having a dinner tonight, a beautiful dinner tonight, and we have a very small room, right? It's called the East Room, and it's beautiful, it's lovely, but it's like for a little cocktail before you go into a ballroom. It's a very small room. They've wanted a new ballroom for 150 years. We could have sold the big ballroom out 3 times in honor of this gentleman. So I made a lot of enemies because I have a lot of people that are invited tonight or are unable to come because of the size constraint. But you know what we'll do before I leave office? We'll have another dinner because we'll have it ready long before I leave office, and it's going to be beautiful. It's a very popular thing what we're doing. And by the way, no government funds. It's all put up private money, all private money. And in the case, I think there's a restriction on foreigners. Otherwise, I could have asked you just for a check, okay? But there's a restriction. These are all private individuals that put up a lot of money to build the ballroom. Not one penny is being used from the federal government. So it's really a nice thing. But I look forward to it. I just pointed it out. This would be a perfect night to have that ballroom open, Susie. If we had that open, we'd have a lot of people very happy. Right now, we have a lot of unhappy people because they all want to be with us tonight to honor this great man. Thank you all very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Brad. Everybody out. Let's go. Thank you, Brad. Let's go. Thank you, Brad. Let's go. Let's go.
Yeah. Oh boy, I bet you the legal team at ABC is like, oh, what did she do? What did she do? He's gonna sue us for $18 gazillion. MBS might sue just for the fun of it. Oh my gosh, I'm watching him escort everybody out of here. Somebody asked earlier, why don't I show the faces of the reporters? Because I don't want them even on screen. That's what she's trying to do. She's trying to get herself publicity. She's trying to get out there so people can see her giving it to the president and giving it to MBS. This guy's got so much money, he could erase you. What in the hell are you thinking? Embarrassing a guest in the White House. That's how bad the TDS is with these people. All right, so before we go, what do I got here? Let's finish the Mike Johnson piece, and then we'll go into Marjorie Taylor Greene and the vote that they're doing. These people are bat poop crazy. He said $1 trillion. $1 trillion, and all you wanted to talk about was Epstein and, who Khashoggi or whatever got taken out. Seriously? You're in a country of 300 million people who are trying to do better, to enjoy prosperity, and your thoughts were on the Epstein files. That's how you can tell they got nothing. And I was so glad that I talked to you about Larry Summers, because then President Trump brought it up. He actually said the same guy I was talking to you about, Larry Summers. Oops, sorry about that. Anyway, let's go and finish up with Mike Johnson here.
For hardworking families, bills that will build on the work that we've achieved to unleash American energy that we passed in the working families tax cuts. Bills that increase energy production, which you'll hear from Representative Begich and Chairman Guthrie, that cut red tape and drive down prices for every single American. And contrast that to what will the Democrats do? They will almost certainly vote no. But ask yourself why. Why? It's because their radical left won't let them vote yes. So again, Republicans want to bring down energy costs. That's why we will vote yes on the bill. Democrats have a lot of talking points, but their actions will say no. We don't want to bring down energy costs for Americans, and they will vote no, right? So at some point, y'all need to ask the Democrats, when will your actions match your words? Because they don't. The contrast is crystal clear. Republicans will always fight to make energy more affordable for the American people. Now, the Democrats, they'll talk about it, but when the rubber meets the road and they have to vote, watch how they vote. They will absolutely vote no. So while Democrats prioritize the wishes of their radical base, we will keep moving forward with our agenda that actually lowers costs for the American people, forward with solutions that makes America affordable again, and we will move forward with the momentum the American people entrusted us with. Because House Republicans aren't here to play politics, or we aren't here to obstruct or distract. We're here to deliver affordability and low cost. We're here to drive down energy costs, and we're here to make America more affordable again. And with that, I will bring up our chairman, Mr. Brett Guthrie.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Good morning, everybody. Thanks for being here today. It's an interesting time. It's a challenging time, but an extremely interesting time in the American energy industry. If you look at the last generation, we've had a generation of flat generation. We've had a generation of flat demand. And so those have worked and made people be comfortable because we were deindustrializing in our state. So that's not the proper path, the way that we have to take. So what are we seeing now? We're seeing a pent-up demand for energy. We're seeing it because of the growth in our industry.
Okay, so they are off of the Epstein stuff right now. I'm going to jump ahead to where Mike Johnson is beginning to take a few questions because they, of course, the reporters jump right back to it.
Files. He doesn't even need Congress to have this vote.
Well, the president's made very clear his position over the last few days. His truth post over the weekend and what he said. I mean, he had a press gaggle yesterday. He said the same thing. He says release all the files. He's been saying that. What he was counting on and what we were insistent upon is using the processes of Congress, as I explained here in great detail this morning, to do it in the right way so that it's not haphazard. And Congress has a role to do that. The Oversight Committee is the appropriate place for this to be done, and that is what is happening right now, as you've all seen. And so we preferred that route. And by the way, as I mentioned, that route is more comprehensive than anything the discharge petition would accomplish anyway, because it didn't even mention the Epstein files and some of these other things. I mean, the estate files. So we want the process to play out. We want it to be done in the right way. We want to do it in a way that doesn't jeopardize our legal system and doesn't inflict more harm on victims. And the president is resolute on that, as we have been, and that's why we opposed this gambit from the beginning. Yes?
Do you acknowledge that by voting for this discharge petition today, that is a reversal for you, that you could have put this on the floor months ago and may not have even needed to have a discharge petition if you had supported it months ago?
No, it's not a reversal. As I just explained, we had big problems with the discharge from the moment it was filed. We talked with the authors. There was lots of people that went and pleaded with them to fix it so that everybody could be together, because we've been for maximum transparency. But again, there's a reason you have rules and processes here to ensure that this is not done haphazardly. And I was not satisfied with that. But I've been for maximum transparency from the very beginning. We wanted the process to play out. So, yes.
Last question, guys. I understand where you're coming from with your concerns with the discharge petition. I also understand your want for transparency. In this case, you've been very clear on both those fronts for weeks. So is the reason why you're now deciding to vote for this resolution because President Trump directly said Republicans should vote for this? Because this has been your position all along, and you've made it clear you weren't in support of this resolution.
If and when the discharge reached the 218th signature, it'll be forced. And the forcing mechanism here prevents the very deliberate, professional, careful manner in which Congress is supposed to do this. I lament that. That's why I'd been opposed to it all along. But having now forced the vote, none of us want to go on record and in any way be accused of not being for maximum transparency. So the only intellectually consistent position to have right now, the only way to ensure that both those things are true at the same time, is to allow for everyone to vote their conscience and to go on record to say, of course we're for maximum transparency. Now, I'll tell you, there's a handful of Republicans, Judiciary Committee members, and a few others who are really struggling, as I have been, about whether or not they could even vote yes today because of this, because we don't have an absolute guarantee that this will be fixed in the Senate. I have a high degree of confidence in that, and that's why that's why I'll be voting yes today. And I've talked about that at great detail. We had an hour and a half long conference call on Sunday with Judiciary Committee members who are really, really concerned. I mean, they're all for maximum transparency, but they're really, really concerned about protecting the victims, and I am as well, and that's why we have gone through this whole long process. Last one, Olivia, go ahead.
On that, James Blair today at a Bloomberg event said that they're looking at ways to send millions of Americans checks from tariff dividend revenue, but without Congress being involved. Do you have concerns about them not running that sort of process through Congress?
Well, I'm not sure that's possible, and James Blair and I will have some intense fellowship about that, I'm sure. He's a good friend. We collaborate on strategy all the time, but this is an idea, I think, that makes sense. The president was talking about it as recently as yesterday. I think what I heard him say, and I haven't talked to him about it because he and I have both been so busy the last 24 hours, I'll see him in a little while, but I think what I heard him say yesterday is he's thinking about something maybe midway into next year, when the tariff revenue is realized and we can figure out what that looks like. But I think it would require an act of Congress, so we'll have to see how. I'm not sure what's being proposed, so it's sort of a hypothetical. Last one, yeah.
Getting specifically to the substance here, reading through the bill, though, I guess I'm confused because the bill specifically says the Attorney General may withhold or redact portions related to child sexual abuse materials as defined in the law, anything jeopardizing federal investigations. It specifically says they can withhold anything containing personal identifiable information of victims, personal medical files. We know the survivors are comfortable with that. All of these things are actually in this bill.
They're not. Let me give you an example. And we could be up here for a long time. I'll litigate it with you because I brought all this stuff. All right. Okay. So the first one you mentioned. Okay. So here's the.
I love how the press, made up of idiot reporters who don't have any legal degrees whatsoever, other than, maybe somebody back in legal gave them a question to ask, and they're questioning a lawyer and a congressman as to what exactly is the legality of something he just told you. And then he has to waste the time and then tell you again.
HRS 581, this is the discharge, okay? It says on page 5, redact anything that depicts or, quote, depicts or contains child sexual abuse material, CSAM, as defined under 18 U.S.C. 2256, okay? All right, so you go to 18 U.S.C. 2256, definitions of the chapter. Nowhere in this section, okay, go look it up, all right, does it contain the definition of child sexual abuse material. So I used to litigate federal cases, and I would challenge statutes in court, okay? The language is very important and very precise. If it's not listed here and this were to become law, child sexual abuse materials are not included. They're not included for redaction, which means the Attorney General and someone there, if they interpret the discharge in the statute that it passes directly and literally, as they're supposed to do, they're required to do under the law, then you're going to have things that would qualify under child sexual abuse materials. You have child pornography included in the distribution of this stuff. We can't go for that. And why did they? No, it's not up to the Attorney General because the way it's.
And she's arguing with him. She's arguing the law with a lawyer and the Speaker of the House. What are we going to do about these people in the media? They're out of control with their TDS. It's absolutely insane.
In the document. No, it's not. It's not because it doesn't reference the right code section. So we could go through every one of these things. We have had a small army of lawyers going through it because I want to make sure that all of my concerns, because I read it the first time initially and I thought, whoa, this is way out of bounds. We have in fact, we'll put on the speaker.gov. I'll put it on the website here when we leave. You'll see the summary of the legal analysis, and it goes through point by point, and it points to the specific sections in the discharge. Guys, we're not making this up, and you can take it to your counsel at your outlet's offices and have them review it, and they'll tell you the same thing. This should have been done in a much more careful manner, and it was not. And I'm going to point out again, when the authors were asked to fix it, they said they weren't interested in doing that. Okay, why? Because this is a raw and obvious political exercise. Again, I'm just going to leave you with this question. You should go ask them all. If you were so concerned about the Epstein files and protecting the victims, why didn't you do a darn thing about it for the 4 years of the Biden administration? All this stuff was sitting in a warehouse and nobody said a word about it. They didn't care. Now they're doing it. We all know why. Because they're trying to attack President Trump. That's it. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, so let me jump ahead here. Where Marjorie Taylor Greene took the microphone this morning and decided she was going to stomp her feet and say a bunch of crap as well. Her and Tom Massey both. So let me moving forward to where I don't want to hear Tom Massey, but here comes Marjorie Taylor Greene.
I want to speak goodness and love and hope into the women standing behind me and all of the other survivors whose names you don't even know, but stand with these women. They are survivors, and they are strong, and they are courageous, and they are daughters of God. They are not victims. These women have fought the most horrific fight that no woman should have to fight, and they did it by banding together and never giving up. And that's what we did by fighting so hard against the most powerful people in the world, even the President of the United States, in order to make this vote happen today. I was called a traitor by a man that I fought for 6 years for. And I gave him my loyalty for free. I won my first election without his endorsement, beating 8 men in a primary. And I've never owed him anything, but I fought for him for the policies and for America first. And he called me a traitor for standing with these women and refusing to take my name off the discharge petition. Let me tell you what a traitor is. A traitor is an American that serves foreign countries and themselves. A patriot is an American that serves the United States of America and Americans like the women standing behind me. And I want to tell you that this only became possible today because the American people whom we serve as representatives here in Congress demanded that this vote happen, and they put more pressure on every single elected politician in this city than has ever been put on them. And today you are going to see probably a unanimous vote in the House to release the Epstein files, but the real fight will happen after that. While I want to see every single name released so that these women don't have to live in fear and intimidation, which is something I've had a small taste of in just the past few days, just a small taste. They've been living it for years. But the real test will be, will the Department of Justice release the files? Or will it all remain tied up in investigations? Will the CIA release the files? Will a judge in New York release the information? That's information that needs to come out. And will the list of names that these women privately hold, and they hold it because of their fear in their heart of what would happen to them if they release it on their own, will that list of names...
Whoa. Why, if they have a list of names, what are they in fear of? You can get protection. You can get that. Go ahead and give out the names. Why do you keep holding these press conferences? How does Congress releasing the names release these people from their protection issues? If you read some names right now, right while you're on that podium, and said it's Fred and Joe and Jim, and well, Fred, Joe, and Jim are going to go ahead and get destroyed, what is the difference if during the hearings or whatever, then it says Fred, Joe, and Jim? It still came from the women. If the women were in peril, they'd already be taken care of if it was truly powerful men. That doesn't make any sense to me. The guys who would be in the list already know who the women are, and how does it differ? You're the one who blabbed. You told the people in Congress. Congress read the name. What's the difference if you just read it right now? You're not going to get any protections from Congress. So you're telling me if Marjorie Taylor Greene or Elizabeth Warren or anybody in Congress said, I've talked to the ladies, and they said it was Joe, Jim, Steve, and Harry. Well, Joe, Jim, Steve, and Harry are going to know that the women named Joe, Jim, Steve, and Harry. So why wouldn't you just say it now? You're not going to get any protection from Congress. This is the part that drives me crazy with this entire BS. I know if, I'm not a woman, but if I was abused, he did it. He did it. You see, there's one protection that will be afforded these women that really has to make you go kind of side-eye. Here's the protection they would get. If any one of these women were to say it's Tom, Dick, Harry, and Frank, and it wasn't Tom, Dick, Harry, and Frank, they get sued into oblivion. If Congress releases the names and says it's Tom, Dick, Harry, and Frank, I didn't say it. It wasn't me. They released the files. You can't sue me. That's the protection they're after. Which doesn't jive with the whole fact of some man did something to me. Because the information is the information. It's the same thing. I understand. I have met with, I know women who have been abused and they don't want to be public. Perfect. Then what the hell are you doing? You see, right now, if I was one of those guys, I would know. Yeah, I remember. You already know who you did with and what you did with. You didn't forget. They supposedly didn't forget. So if you didn't forget, why don't you just say it? This is like the 15th time these women have got together and held a press conference. Well, who? Oh, we can't tell you. Who is going to tell us? Oh, the files. Well, what's the difference? What's the difference if this information comes out in a file and then it goes all over the New York Times and the Washington Post? The only difference, the one difference, I didn't say it. You can't sue me. The New York Times posted it. And as you see in the press will say anything. Oh, it wasn't me, it was in the file. I'm just reporting what was in the file. And like what Mike Johnson was saying, hey, we don't want pictures and video of an act, especially an underage act, to show up anywhere. And what do you think the media would do if they got a picture of Joe and Frank with some 14-year-old? Do you think they would hold on to it? Or do you think it'd be, okay, use discretion here before you click the link, but you get to see it? These people make me sick. Absolutely sick, because these women at any time in the last however years could come out and say, this dude did this to me when I was 12, when I was 13. Why do I need Marjorie Taylor Greene to say it? You see what I'm saying? You understand how I'm approaching this? Is because the bottom line is I want this guy taken down. He did something to me when I was 13. Why am I going to have 15 press conferences over 10 years when I can just, that guy, I'm going to shame you and let everybody, no, I can't tell you who it is. I need you to release the files to tell who it is. Man, something stinks here.
That's the real test. So I want to thank Thomas Massey and Ro Khanna for your bravery in doing something that is much needed in America, crossing the political aisle that has become bigger than the Grand Canyon in America. But these men crossed that aisle on behalf of these women. And that is more of what is needed today in America than ever in our history. So thank you so much. Who's next? Ro, I'll let you introduce.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so that's what she had to say. She had to tell everybody that, she was with President Trump, but he cares more about money than, Americans. He's worried about allies and people across the world. Not, She didn't say, however, hey, I showed up in Congress. I was worth about $600,000. Now I'm worth about $20 million. How'd you do that, Marjorie? If you weren't worried about money, how did you go from $500,000 to $20 million? But I'm going to give you something else. I think you're watching a movie. I could be wrong. I could be completely wrong. But I think this is all a scam. I think she was put up to it. I think that we think there's a rift. I don't know. Something just doesn't seem right with this movie. Something, I don't know. I can't get it into focus. Things don't make any sense. I started talking to you guys last night. When I talked to you last night and I said, I have an issue. People are like, if President Trump, if the Democrats get in power, they're going to take down Trump. They're going to throw him in jail. They're going to take his businesses. They're going to do everything. Yeah, we all know that. So does he. And my hypothesis last night was, if he knows all of this, which he does, then he'll do anything to make sure they don't get back in power. And one of the things I said is, I need to clear the deck of allies because people will come after them. I'm not running again, so when I sign this Insurrection Act and take these people down, they all can point at me. I don't care. I don't want all these other people to go down. So maybe, just maybe, I don't know if she's that good of an actress, but maybe MTG is playing a part and she's a foot soldier, playing a double agent. I don't know. None of this stuff makes any sense to me. It just doesn't make any sense. How she just all of a sudden decides she's going to be against Trump. Kind of reminds me of a couple of months ago when a certain guy who makes cars and sends rockets up, and they had a little fight or whatever, and people are like, look, Elon's turned on Trump. Guess who's going to be at the dinner tonight? Guess who's going to be there with President Trump meeting MBS? Yep, Elon Musk. And I don't know about you, but people who call me names like a pedo and then point at me and tell me I'm stupid and everything else and have a fist fight with Scott Bessent, I don't think I'd invite them back to my house. So reconcile that. How the hell Elon Musk is going to show up at the White House tonight talking to arguably the richest man in the world and the president? Y'all can make sense of that. So everything was being prefaced about this big vote, right? So they're supposed to have this big vote. As I turn to this computer, and let me go ahead and show this to you. I want you to get a little load of what was going on in Congress. All right, so let's listen to this.
The gentleman from Massachusetts is recognized.
Thank you. And first, let me say how much I admire the courage of my Republican colleagues who are beside me here today. Mr. Speaker, at the end of the day, this is not about us, and it's not about politics. This is about the survivors, young girls who were exploited by powerful men who use money and power to take advantage of girls, some as young as 11 years old. The President of the United States calls it all a hoax. Can you imagine that? What an evil and disgusting thing to say. These young girls, now women, the survivors, what happened to them was horrific. They were sexually abused, many of them for years, and the President of the United States calls it all a hoax. What kind of messed up, sick in the head, immoral person says something like that? This bill is about making sure powerful men are held accountable. It's about demanding truth and transparency for the American people. Now, Republican leaders in this House lost control of the story. They lost the ability to hide behind procedure, and they lost the luxury of pretending that they were ever on the right side. The American people see it, survivors see it, and history will see it. And listening to the Speaker of the House's press conference today, I mean, it sounds like he basically wants to kill this whole thing. He's trying to obstruct and derail the process. Why the hell is he fighting so hard to do the opposite of what the survivors want? What an awful, awful thing to do. So let us release the files. Let's give survivors the transparency they've long been denied. Let us take back power from the rich billionaire elites who think they can do whatever they want with no justice or accountability. And let's remember exactly who had to be dragged here under duress and who stood up from day one demanding the truth. And with that, I yield back.
Members are reminded to refrain from engaging in personalities towards the president. The gentleman yields back. The gentlelady from North Carolina is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, those of us who did not sign the discharge petition are just as concerned about the victims, or if you, as some are calling them, survivors, as our colleagues who signed the discharge petition. We share contempt for anyone who abused anyone else. I've stood on this floor many times, Mr. Speaker, to speak out for victims and survivors of people who have been abused, and against anyone who breaks the law or takes advantage of an innocent person. We will not be characterized as insensitive to that. But what House Republicans who didn't sign the discharge petition remain focused on truth, accountability, and delivering real justice for Epstein victims. Again, I'll point out that it was under President Trump's Department of Justice that Jeffrey Epstein was arrested and tried. We have not tried to avoid this situation. We want things done the right way. We want maximum justice for these victims and survivors. Our rule today simply expedites consideration of the Massey-Khanna legislation. And as I said, we would have liked to have seen it pass last week when we gave an opportunity for it, but it was blocked by the Democrat minority leader. I ask for support for this rule, the underlying legislation. With that, I urge my colleagues to vote yes on the previous question, yes on the rule, and Mr. Speaker, I yield back the balance of my time and move the previous question on the resolution.
The gentlelady yields back the balance of her time. The question is on ordering the previous question on the resolution. Those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. In the opinion of the chair, the noes have it.
Mr. Speaker, request the yeas and nays.
The yeas and nays are requested. Those favoring a vote by the yeas and nays will rise. A sufficient number having risen, the yeas and nays are ordered. Pursuant to Clause 8 of Rule 20, further proceedings on this question will be postponed.
All right, so what she was asking was what Mike Johnson was asking, and that was to, hey, can we sanitize this so these pictures and stuff don't get out there? But it seems as though they don't care. They just want everything released as is, including pictures and videos of these now women and whatever they went through. So what they're going to do now is try to move towards an actual vote. This thing, it got tabled, but now they're going to start probably talking real quick here about more stuff that they want to see happen, because everybody is going to get their turn. So you guys, 65% of you say, hey, Barry, can you show the vote? And as the wheels go round and round in Congress, I'm going to show you the procedure here. And you can see at the bottom of your screen, Marjorie Taylor Greene and Thomas Massey are sitting there.
Pursuant to Clause 8 of Rule 20, the chair will postpone further proceedings today on motions to suspend the rules on which a recorded vote or the yeas and nays are ordered, or votes objected to under Clause 6 of Rule 20. The House will resume proceedings on postponed questions at a later time. For what purpose does the gentleman from Ohio seek recognition?
Mr. Speaker, I move to suspend the rules and pass H.R. 4405.
The clerk will report the title of the bill.
H.R. 4405, a bill to require the Attorney General to release all documents and records in possession of the Department of Justice relating to Jeffrey Epstein and for other purposes.
Pursuant to the rule, the gentleman from Ohio, Mr. Jordan, and the gentleman from Maryland, Mr. Raskin, each will control 20 minutes. The chair recognizes the gentleman from Ohio.
Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent that all members have 5 legislative days in which to revise and extend their remarks and to insert extraneous material on H.R. 4405.
Without objection.
Mr. Speaker, I yield myself such time as I may consume.
The gentleman is recognized.
We all support holding bad guys accountable, and we're all going to vote for this resolution. But I think a little perspective is important. Democrats have spent 6 months talking about Epstein, even though they had 4 years to do something about it. Now, why would they do that? Why would they do that? Maybe it's to go after President Trump. Never forget, they shut down the government for 43 days. They said, don't worry about our military, don't worry about air traffic controllers, don't worry about our economy, don't worry about American families.
All right, I just want to jump in to let some of you know what's about to happen, as you can hear it in the background. They're going to start talking, and who knows how long this is going to take. Jim Jordan's going to have 20 minutes to allocate. Jamie Raskin is going to have 20 minutes to allocate. That's 40 minutes right there. It is now 145. I'll stick with this. You guys can listen to it. 65% of you said you wanted to hear it, but I'm just going to let it play, and I'll be back in and out as these guys continue. Hopefully we'll get to some sort of resolution on this thing before it goes before the end of the day, but I'll talk to you before we sign off.
Then it was a 43-day shutdown, and now it's Epstein. And by the way, the same party that did all that, they were also the ones who were texting with Mr. Epstein during a hearing where Michael Cohen was their witness in another effort to go after the president. Americans see through it all, and frankly, it's actually kind of sad. This obsession, this syndrome, this mindset that says we got to go after President Trump no matter what that they have. And when I think about it, I think it's because President Trump and Republicans have accomplished so much that they told the voters they were going to accomplish in the 2024 election. We're actually doing what we said we were going to do. President Trump said he was going to cut taxes, and he did. President Trump said he would secure the border, and he did. President Trump said he'd get men out of women's sports, and he did. President Trump said he would make sure Iran doesn't have nuclear capability, and he did. And he said he would get the hostages out of Gaza back into Israel, and he did. All in 9 months. So I don't know what causes this mindset, this syndrome that the left has, but I know one thing. It is real. Which brings me to last week. Think about what the Democrats did last week. The Democrats released an email that the Oversight Committee had obtained from the estate, an email from Mr. Epstein to Ms. Maxwell. When the Democrats released it, they redacted the victim's name, something we all support, something everyone supports, except in this case, no court had ordered that name redacted, no agency had redacted it, and the estate didn't redact it. And the victim had already went public. So why black out her name? Why black out her name? Because she had said in her book and had testified under oath that she never saw any wrongdoing by President Trump. So think about what they did. In an email between two criminals, Mr. Epstein and Ms. Maxwell, in an email between two criminals, they hide the name of an individual who had went public and exonerated the president, and we know why. To distort and twist the message because they thought it might harm the president. Their position, cover up the names of people who are already public, but don't worry about other innocent people who the court said should remain private. Again, I think the American people see through it. They see through what the Democrats are doing. The American people know what this is. They know Democrats have nothing else to run on because of the success of this administration. So I say let's vote yes on this resolution, and then let's get focused on making sure we're doing what the American families elected us to do. With that, I reserve.
The gentleman reserves. The gentleman from Maryland is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield myself such time as I may consume.
The gentleman is recognized.
Today, 4 months and 3 days after Mr. Khan and Mr. Massey introduced their discharge petition, perhaps the most famous discharge petition in American history, the People's House unites across party lines to draw a moral line. We draw a line against the rape and sexual violation of children. We draw a line against the global criminal trafficking of girls and young women to service the pleasure of rich and powerful men who believe they are beyond all law and all morality. We draw a line to put the voices of the victims and the survivors first. We ask the Senate to join us without changes rather than obstruct this bill with dilatory amendments, legislative graffiti, and self-dealing million-dollar jackpot provisions for lucky senators. Just pass the bill. We're finally voting today because a bipartisan discharge petition led by Representatives Massey and Khan and signed by 218 of us overthrew the determined obstruction of the Speaker. This forced vote means the House will no longer acquiesce in this astonishing real-time cover-up of a multi-billion-dollar global sex trafficking and child rape ring that has ravaged the lives of more than 1,000 girls and young women. We're here today because these victims, these survivors, these citizens, these inspiring women who have come to Washington are demanding nothing less than justice and the complete truth about who is responsible for their vicious abuse, including those responsible for enabling it, ignoring it, bankrolling it, and covering it up. We join them today in rejecting any more dangerous lies about the crimes they suffered. No, child sex abuse is not a hoax. It's a crime. Human trafficking is not a hoax. It's a crime. These crimes are a curse on children and young people across America, in universities and elementary schools, in churches and mosques and synagogues, in Boy Scout troops and college sports teams and summer camps. Anywhere the powerful and the rich believe they've got the opportunity and the impunity to exploit the young, the poor, the powerless, and the vulnerable. We must face the truth and find the co-conspirators still at large in one of America's most extensive and sophisticated sex trafficking and child abuse rings in history. Release of the file will expose the role of everybody who facilitated and covered up these crimes, like J.P. Morgan Chase, Bank of America, Deutsche Bank, and Bank of New York Mellon, which executed billions of dollars in transactions related to these offenses, as well as any bank executives who participated in the sexual abuse of girls and young women. We must expose everyone who covered up these crimes, like Alex Acosta, the former U.S. attorney in Miami, Donald Trump's labor secretary, who gave Jeffrey Epstein an unbelievable sweetheart plea deal, immunized unnamed conspirators, and killed an investigation into Epstein's financial crimes that could have brought down the entire criminal network. And with that, I'm going to yield. I'll reserve the balance of my time.
The gentleman reserves. The gentleman from Ohio is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield 4 minutes to the distinguished chair of the House Oversight Committee, Mr. Comer, the gentleman from Kentucky.
The gentleman from Kentucky is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As chairman of the House Oversight Committee, I've always believed that sunshine is the best disinfectant. For years, the American people have demanded transparency about Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell's horrific crimes, and about the federal government's failure to protect the victims. The House Oversight Committee is conducting a thorough review of the federal government's investigation into Epstein. Our work goes far beyond the legislation before us today. We are committed to accountability, transparency, and justice for the American people and for the survivors of these appalling crimes. To date, the Oversight Committee has released more than 65,000 pages of documents, issued 13 subpoenas, and conducted interviews with 2 key witnesses, both of whom were Republicans. The Trump administration has provided us with Department of Justice materials and access to suspicious activity reports. Unfortunately, throughout this investigation, Democrats have chosen to manufacture yet another anti-Trump hoax instead of pursuing justice. They have mischaracterized witness testimony and selectively released documents complete with targeted redactions in an effort to smear President Trump. For example, former U.S. Attorney General Bill Barr, who oversaw the 2019 Epstein investigation, stated clearly under oath that the prosecution team found no evidence that President Trump committed wrongdoing. Despite this simple and straightforward fact, Ranking Member Robert Garcia, moments after that deposition, tiptoed out and publicly claimed that, quote, Barr could not clear Trump of wrongdoing. That was a lie, and we have the transcript to prove it. I invite the media to read the transcript. When the Oversight Committee interviewed former U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of Florida, Alex Acosta, Democrats whipped themselves into a frenzy trying to manufacture a gotcha moment, but they failed. Mr. Acosta dismantled the Democrats' narrative. His testimony confirmed there was no contact between President Trump and Mr. Acosta and no connection between President Trump in the Epstein case. Next, Democrats resorted to selective leaks and doctored documents to mislead the American people. Oversight Committee Republicans have posted 65,000 pages of documents we have received to date. Democrats, by contrast, have released fewer than 1 dozen. In their latest selective leak, Democrats released just three of the 23,000 pages of documents from the Epstein estate. And they made redactions to 2 of those emails that changed both the context and the meaning of the 3 pages they released. When CNN called them out for their deceptive redactions, Representatives Stansbury and Crockett tried to blame Republicans for their own edits, for the Democrat Oversight Committee edits. After Democrats released only 3 emails, Republicans released over 23,000 pages. And what did Democrats say in response when we released every single document that we got? They claimed full transparency was meant to, quote, disorient or distract from their manufactured narrative. These are the same Democrats who chant, release the files every day until the files contradict the story they want to tell. That is the definition of hypocrisy. In contrast, full transparency exposed how Epstein appears to be TDS patient zero. The emails reveal a journalist coached Epstein to blackmail then presidential candidate Donald Trump.
The gentleman is recognized.
The files also show that a House Democrat colluded with Epstein during the 2019 oversight hearing to discredit witness with a vendetta against President Trump. And unsurprisingly, Democrats have been silent about their colleagues' coordination with Epstein. Another email shows Democrat fundraisers invited Epstein to an event or to meet privately with Hakeem Jeffries as part of their 2013 effort to win a majority. So Hakeem Jeffries' campaign solicited money from Jeffrey Epstein. That's what we found in the last document batch. The files underscore why former President Trump must appear for his deposition. We've subpoenaed him. To date, the Democrats have done nothing to help us secure his appearance. I support full transparency. The Oversight Committee will continue to work to get the truth to the American people and to get justice for the victims. That's our goal of this investigation. With that, I yield back.
The gentleman yields back.
Yeah, Mr. Speaker, we reserve.
The gentleman reserves. The gentleman from Maryland is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I should just point out that we've heard now from the 2 distinguished chairmen of the Judiciary and the Oversight Committee, and they've spoken almost exclusively to denounce Democrats. We have a bipartisan coalition here demanding the truth about the largest child sex abuse and trafficking ring, perhaps in American history, certainly in this century, and they want to just throw stones at the Democrats. What a remarkable failure of leadership we're seeing from the other side. And I imagine that the chairman of the Oversight Committee will follow up his spectacular failure in trying to impeach President Biden with his spectacular failure in trying to block the resolution we brought to the floor today. I'm happy to yield 1 minute. Excuse me, you're not recognized, whoever's speaking. And I'd like to yield 1 minute to the very distinguished minority leader on the House Oversight Committee.
The gentleman is recognized.
Thank you. And Mr. Speaker, it's wonderful to hear Republicans and certainly the chairman of our committee finally wanting transparency on this issue. It is time to end this White House cover-up now. Now, we know that Donald Trump has tried everything to kill our Jeffrey Epstein investigation, and he's failed. And now he's panicking. He's about to lose his Epstein vote to force the Department of Justice to release the files. And let's be crystal clear. Trump has the power to release the files today. He does not even need a vote. And he continues to defy the subpoena of the Oversight Committee to release all the files. What is Donald Trump hiding? What is Pam Bondi, the Attorney General, hiding? Why won't they release the Epstein files right now? And he must explain to the public why he moved sex trafficker and monster Ghislaine Maxwell to a cushy, low-security prison after her interview with Trump's personal lawyer. He should declare, and every Republican should say, that she does not deserve a pardon or commutation.
The gentleman's time has expired.
30 more seconds. I grant him 20 more seconds.
We don't care how much money you have. what party you're in, how powerful you are, we should get justice for the survivors of Jeffrey Epstein. And our work on the committee is not over. Next up are the bank and financial records to follow and expose Epstein's network. Today, there should be a unanimous vote on releasing the files, and we will get justice. And with that, I yield back. And we reserve.
The gentleman reserves. The gentleman from Ohio is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield a minute and a half to the distinguished gentleman from California and member of the Judiciary Committee, Mr. Kiley.
The gentleman from California is recognized.
I have consistently called for the maximum possible level of transparency when it comes to the heinous crimes of Jeffrey Epstein. That's why I've consistently said I am inclined to vote for this bill, and it's why I will be doing so today. The victims deserve the truth. They deserve justice, and they deserve closure. For months, they've had to wake up every day and see the name of their tormentor on the front page of every newspaper, on every TV channel, as has the broader American public. This issue has been so politicized by so many people in so many ways, which is deeply unfortunate when we're talking about matters of the highest sensitivity and untold suffering. It is my hope that the passage of this resolution today, together with the work of the Oversight Committee, will lead to the expeditious release of all pertinent material so that we can move on. Let's get accountability, let's get answers, and let's get this over with. I yield back.
The gentleman yields back. The gentleman reserves.
Yeah, we reserve.
The gentleman from Maryland is recognized.
I yield 1 minute to the very distinguished gentlelady from Washington, a member of the Judiciary Committee.
The gentlelady from Washington is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, thousands of girls, children, were abused by Jeffrey Epstein and his massive and powerful ring of pedophiles and protectors of pedophiles. We can't say all their names here. We don't have time. But let's at least bring a few of the courageous survivors and their names onto the House floor right here as we debate this. Haley Robson, Jenna Lisa Jones, Michelle Licata, Ashley Rubright, Annie Farmer, Marina Lacerda, Rachel Benavides. These women have carried a burden that they never should have had to bear. And today they demand, we demand, the American people demand that we answer their clarion call to justice. Today, despite all the giant cover-up attempts by this administration and this Speaker of the House, we will vote to release all the Epstein files. To be clear, there is no protection for pedophiles, no protection for the rich and powerful men of either party who participated, who turned a blind eye, who winked and grinned while witnessing the horrific abuses of young children. Release all the damn files now.
We reserve.
The gentleman reserves. The gentleman from Ohio is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield a minute and a half to the distinguished gentleman from North Carolina and member of our committee.
The gentleman is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have been very supportive of this effort, specifically to bring justice to the victims of this horrific series of crimes. However, I have worked behind the scenes to raise concerns with this petition as it is currently drafted. Specifically, I believe that there is grave risk at harming innocent people. And I repeat, harming innocent people. When innocent people are harmed, that is not furthering justice. With an investigation of this size and a file that is as large as the Epstein files and as poorly defined as that is in this petition, there will invariably be people who are released pursuant to this discharge petition who had nothing to do with criminal activity. Imagine, if you will, a bellman, a waiter, some type of doorman, a mere social attendee who had no impact whatsoever on the criminal activities of Jeffrey Epstein, no participation. Their lives are forever ruined. And I'm reading specifically from the petition's language that prohibited grounds for withholding information in this file are embarrassment, reputational harm, or political sensitivity. And I would just submit, if you were going to be embarrassed, if you were going to suffer social harm, and that is all of the encompassed activity that you were a part of, you will be named in this petition. And I resent that. Innocent people should not be harmed when we are pursuing justice. I understand the political nature of this petition. I resent the fact that there was not room for good faith amendments, and I urge the Senate to protect innocent people. I yield back.
Yields back. The gentleman reserves. The gentleman from Maryland is recognized.
Thank you. I'm yielding 1 minute to the distinguished gentlelady from California, Representative Kamlager-Dove.
The gentlelady from California is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, 1 in 3 women and girls around the world are physically and sexually assaulted each year. Of the 152 women in this body, that means 51 women. It includes your daughters, your sisters, your nieces, your mothers. And with the Epstein files, we have a chance to change that. But real talk, the administration doesn't need a discharge petition. It has not complied with the subpoena, and it has the power to release the files today. Instead, the man in the most powerful position in the world has used the full weight of the government to block and obfuscate and deflect the full release of the files. It is the same person who intimidated female members of Congress to withdraw names from the petition, who responded quiet piggy to a female reporter who asked about the files, and who nominated an alleged sexual predator to be our AG. It is the same person whose name appears more than any other in the Epstein emails. And in the pantheon of violence, a sexual predator is the worst of the worst, so why protect him? It's also curious that the judiciary is managing this debate and has not even had this come before the committee. I wonder why. Release the files now!
We reserve.
The gentleman reserves. The gentleman from Ohio is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield 2 minutes to the gentleman from Texas, Mr. Roy, chairman of the Constitution Subcommittee.
The gentleman from Texas is recognized.
I thank the chairman. Today, a united Republican Party and a bipartisan supermajority is going to pass a bill to increase transparency regarding the egregious abuses by Jeffrey Epstein, a goal that anyone of conscience desires. That is, in totality, an important statement to check the rich and the powerful. Remember how we got here. After decades, it was President Trump's Department of Justice that indicted Jeffrey Epstein in July of 2019. It was President Trump's DOJ that arrested and indicted Ms. Maxwell. It was the Republican-led Oversight Committee, through 13 subpoenas, that has released 65,000 pages of files in just 10 months. Meanwhile, my colleagues on the other side of the aisle have largely ignored this issue. It was Democrats who redacted an email to mislead the American people about the truth of a witness that exonerated President Trump. It was a Democrat, Representative Placette, who literally texted with Jeffrey Epstein as we questioned Michael Cohen. It was Democrats who shut down the government, resulting in the delay of swearing in of members. As we vote to pass this legislation, and it will pass, it is impossible.
Somebody asked if she was talking about Pam Bondi. No, she was talking about Matt Gaetz. Remember, Matt Gaetz was the original suggestion or nominee for the Attorney General, and he had to withdraw or whatever. So that's who she was referring to, not Pam Bondi. And they made all kinds of allegations about Matt Gaetz,
who have genuine concerns about supporting this bill out of fear of creating new victims or harming existing victims, or both. That is what we've reduced Congress to, inserting itself into the prosecutorial process for political motivations, driven heavily by hatred of President Trump. We should be concerned about victim privacy, concerned about risking disclosure of non-credible allegations, of child sexual abuse materials, future investigations. But here's the deal. The leaders of this nation must expose abuses by the rich and the powerful. That is why President Trump and the House have been working for full transparency. But we should be motivated by truth and justice for all, not politics. I yield back.
The gentleman yields back. The gentleman reserves. The gentleman from Maryland is recognized.
Thank you. I yield 1 minute to the distinguished gentlelady from Massachusetts, Representative Clark, the Minority Whip.
The gentlelady is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This should be an easy vote. This is about justice for the victims and survivors of Jeffrey Epstein. This is about every victim of trafficking and sexual abuse, monstrous crimes that thrive in secrecy and fear. Yet instead of shining a light on that darkness, just moments ago, Donald Trump defended the continued obstruction of releasing these files. Even as House Republicans prepare to vote yes today, Speaker Johnson is calling this a show vote. He's calling it dangerous. He is signaling the U.S. Senate to block it. Republicans continue to use their power to shield rich pedophiles from justice. If you can't stand up for these survivors, how can anyone trust you to stand up for them? I yield back.
The gentlelady yields back.
We yield.
The gentleman reserves. Does the gentleman reserve?
Yeah, we reserve.
The gentleman from Ohio is recognized.
We reserve.
The gentleman reserves. The gentleman from Maryland is recognized.
Yes, just very quickly, what happened under the Biden administration? Well, under the Biden administration, Ghislaine Maxwell was prosecuted for conspiring to sexually abuse and traffic girls in 2020. Right when it's in 2021, she was convicted. In December of 2021, after a month-long trial in Judge Nathan's courtroom, in 2022, Maxwell was sentenced to 20 years in prison under the Biden administration for sex trafficking and sexual abuse of minors. But when President Trump took office in January of 2025, they killed the investigation. They assembled all the materials, they got all the prosecutors together, and they terminated the investigation. I yield 1 minute to the distinguished gentleman from Illinois, Mr. Raja Krishnamurthy.
The gentleman from Illinois is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise in strong support to release the Epstein files. First, this issue is beyond party. It's a question of justice. Survivors have waited too long. Stop the delay. This is not a hoax. Release the files. Second, we must face a hard truth. Silence that shields the powerful is a betrayal of those they hurt. Congress must reject any attempt, including a presidential pardon or any form of clemency for Ghislaine Maxwell. This cannot be done. This would be a cover-up. We cannot allow clemency of any kind for Maxwell, not now, not ever. Survivors deserve justice. I urge a strong yes vote. Thank you.
I yield back.
I want to thank the gentleman for his eloquent remarks. Pardons are for people who are contrite. Pardons are for people who are repentant. Pardons are not for people who lie. Every member of this body should immediately, verbally, vocally denounce the idea of clemency, commutation, or pardon for Ghislaine Maxwell, and we reserve.
The gentleman reserves. The gentleman from Ohio is recognized.
Yeah, we reserve, Mr. Speaker.
The gentleman reserves.
I yield 30 seconds to Ms. Leisure Fernandez.
The gentlelady is recognized.
There were thousands of girls and young women abused, trafficked, and used by Epstein, the elite and the powerful who believed they could get away with it. Epstein told the young victims that he controlled the banks and the government. Those women refused to be silenced, and today they have pierced the dark with their light. Anytime any girl is trafficked, molested, or abused, the world must stand up. Today, the House proves Jeffrey Epstein wrong. The Senate must do the same tomorrow.
The gentleman reserves. The gentleman from Ohio is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield 2 minutes to the gentleman from California. 1.5 minutes to the gentleman from California.
The gentleman from California is recognized.
I thank you, Chairman. Mr. Speaker, a minute and a half or an hour, the words would still have to be the same. We've all said that this will pass the House, perhaps unanimously today. I think all of us who have looked at the details of this particular bill know that it is flawed and that before it goes to the President's desk, it has to be amended as it can be amended in the Senate. And we call on the Senate to amend it so that we protect the innocent, so that we have the provisions that were intended perhaps to be in this bill but are not properly written. With that, President Trump has said, get it to his desk, he will sign it. President Trump has said he will do it. But I'm going to say to all of us, it is also important that we remember that Epstein is dead, but people live on, people who were innocent, people who in fact should not be named. We're not talking about the rich and the powerful, we're talking about the very victims. That is what we need to make sure is amended before it goes to the President's desk. And with that, I thank the chairman for his time. I think no more needs to be said that this body will vote for it all, but let's not kid ourselves. It has to be changed so that it properly protects both the tradition of the grand jury and clearly those innocent people that would otherwise be swept up. And I yield back.
The gentleman's time has expired. The gentleman yields back.
Reserve.
The gentleman reserves. The gentleman from Maryland is recognized.
This whole bill is about protecting the innocent Mr. Speaker, the Senate must pass the bill as we are passing it today and as the President has said he would sign it after changing his position on the bill over the weekend when he could see the tidal wave of public opinion moving against him. Let's pass this bill, pass it in the Senate, sign the bill, and let us go ahead and release the complete file. I yield 30 seconds to the distinguished gentlelady from Arizona, Representative Ansari.
The gentlelady is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, the walls are closing in on Donald Trump and his rich and powerful friends who either abused or raped children or were enabling and complicit in these heinous crimes for decades. This vote today matters, but here is the truth. Donald Trump could direct the Department of Justice to release the files today. He is choosing not to. They are already under subpoena, led by oversight Democrats, and have refused. This is an ongoing cover-up by the Trump White House, and Mike Johnson and the House has been complicit. What is Trump hiding? Why not release the files today? This is a
time has expired.
Release the files today. Thank you.
The gentlelady's time has expired. The gentleman reserves. The gentleman from Ohio is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield 2 minutes to the distinguished gentleman from New Jersey, Mr. Van Drew.
The gentleman from New Jersey is recognized.
Today I want to talk about hypocrisy. Let me be clear. I was from Jumpstart, a co-sponsor of this very bill. From the beginning, we should never protect pedophiles. But for months, my Democratic colleagues have done what they think is politically convenient through all the yelling, through all the tears, through all the sadness. They say releasing the Epstein list is of grave concern to them. If that was true, where were they during the 4 years of the Biden presidency? Why didn't they demand the release of these files from Jumpstart in year 1? Mr. Speaker, why didn't they ask for them in year 2? Or if that wasn't good enough, maybe in year 3, they had control. Or not even in his final year of office. Other than a single letter the ranking member wrote in 2019, a single letter, not one Democrat on the committee spoke out about Epstein or his victims of this very terrible tragedy, other than to say that he didn't like the plea deal. Let me say this. When they stand here today insisting how badly they want these files released, why didn't they do it? Yet they stayed silent for year after year after year after year under Joe Biden. It's impossible. Mr. Speaker, it is impossible to see that as genuine. What I see is a group more focused on scoring political points and drama than protecting abused children. The record is clear. Under Republicans, far more information has been released in the last 6 months than was done during all 4 years of the previous presidency under Joe Biden. We've actually been the party of transparency. We've released the information. We've told the truth. Unfortunately, and I'm sad to say it, they have been the party of hypocrisy. Mr. Chair, I yield back.
The gentleman yields back. The gentleman reserves. The gentleman from Maryland is recognized.
You know, I've never heard a more defensive presentation in my life than what we're hearing from over there. The gentleman should spend a little less time pointing out hypocrisy and a little more time trying to ferret out cruelty, humiliation, and rape. And that's what we're working on. I yield 30 seconds to the distinguished gentleman from California, Mr. Min.
The gentleman from California is recognized.
I want to remind you that we are all here voting on this bill because President Trump, who has the power to release the Epstein files at any time, has refused to do so, calling this a hoax. We're here because Speaker Mike Johnson and President Trump have gone to extraordinary lengths to try to kill and delay the discharge petition, including refusing to seat Adelita Grijalva for over 40 days and threatening House Republicans who signed on. Now, several of my Republican colleagues have accused those of us House Democrats who support justice here of having Trump derangement syndrome. You all suffer from something much worse, which is pedophile protection syndrome. Stop protecting pedophiles, release the Epstein files. The victims deserve justice. I yield back.
We reserve.
Members are reminded to direct their comments to the chair.
No kidding.
The gentleman from Maryland reserves. The gentleman from Ohio is recognized.
We reserve.
The gentleman from Ohio reserves. The gentleman from Maryland.
I'm yielding 30 seconds to my friend, Representative Walkinshaw from Virginia.
The gentleman is recognized.
For years, Mr. Speaker, we have watched dangerous conspiracies like Pizzagate and QAnon shape our political landscape. They help fuel the rise of President Trump and were built on baseless claims about secret pedophile rings, while the real documented case of child sex trafficking involving Jeffrey Epstein remained shrouded in secrecy. because President Trump refuses to release the files. What is President Trump hiding? Why won't he release the files? The House finally has the opportunity to act, release the files, and let the American people see the truth. I yield back.
The gentleman yields back.
We reserve.
The gentleman reserves. The gentleman from Ohio is recognized.
We reserve.
The gentleman reserves. The gentleman from Maryland is recognized.
Granting 30 seconds to the very distinguished gentlelady who is finally with us, Representative Adelita Grijalva from Arizona 7th.
The gentlelady is recognized.
Thank you. Mr. Speaker, I rise today to acknowledge the survivors, family members, and advocates who are here today and have never given up. The legislation in front of us, at its core, is about something very simple. The survivors deserve justice. The American people deserve the truth. To every survivor watching, your courage is inspiring. You are the reason why this vote is happening today. Protecting women and children from pedophiles should not be a Democratic issue, should not be a Republican issue. It should be a human rights issue and a matter of justice. I urge my colleagues to vote yes on the Epstein Files Transparency Act. I yield back. Thank you.
Thank you, and we reserve.
The chair will remind all persons in the gallery that they are here as guests of the House and that any manifestation of approval or disapproval of proceedings is in violation of the rules of the House. The gentleman from Maryland.
Yeah, but I'll just add, they're here as honored guests of the House, and we're delighted they're here, and with that, we reserve.
The gentleman reserves. The gentleman from Ohio is recognized.
Yeah, we reserve.
The gentleman reserves. The gentleman from Maryland.
I'm granting 30 seconds to Representative Lois Frankel from Florida.
The gentlelady from Florida is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, for far too long, the survivors of Jeffrey Epstein's abuse were failed by a justice system that minimized their suffering and prosecutors who treated young girls as if they were criminals. That was wrong, and I am here with my colleagues to promise this. We will get to the bottom of why the Epstein survivors were treated so badly, who made those decisions, and who were they protecting. No more secrecy, no more excuses. We all deserve the truth, and I thank the survivors for their courage and perseverance. Your voices are being heard.
The gentlelady yields back. The gentleman reserves the balance of his time. The gentleman from Ohio.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield 1 minute to the distinguished gentleman from the great state of Louisiana, the Speaker of the United States House of Representatives, Mr.
The gentleman from Louisiana is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Chairman Jordan, for doing such an extraordinary job on all of this. For 43 long days, the Democrats held this House and the entire country hostage. Finally, with the lights back on, this body's returning to our regular legislative session. We have a lot of work to do. My colleagues on this side of the chamber are ready and eager to get back to our urgent legislative work that we promised the American people we would do. We've got to continue lowering the cost of health care. We've got to bring down prices for American families, and we've got to finish the regular appropriations process, just to name a few of those priorities. And I wish I could say that our first order of business would be to get to those urgent priorities, but of course we're here spending time on the floor about something else. This is something we could have resolved last week when we brought a unanimous consent to pass this discharge with the full support of the body. But our friends over here who are arguing today stalled that. They objected to it, and they wanted to have this exercise instead. And that's why we say that this is a show vote. That's what this is. They're making a show of it. And it really is a shame. We have some heroic women in the chamber today. I met with many of them a while back. They're in the gallery here. They have come forward. They have shown their faces. They've used their names to share the unspeakable tragedies that many of them were subjected to, some of them when they were very young. And it is a heroic service to the country. They are seeking justice, and the justice has been delayed for too long. The Department of Justice, many years ago, should have brought these charges. It took too long to do it. And now we're in this process of making sure all the American people get the information, but we have to do it in the right way, After 4 years of Democrat control under President Biden, they were not truthful with us about a lot of things. The Democrats insisted the border was secure. We knew it wasn't. They insisted that inflation was transitory. We knew it wouldn't be. They misled the American people about the obvious mental and physical decline of the previous commander-in-chief. And now those same Democrats are demanding transparency. Suddenly, transparency is their new word. Out of nowhere, they've taken a curious concern in the Epstein investigation, all in the name of that, in the name of transparency. But the question has been asked here many times during the debate on the floor, and everybody questioning why it is that Democrats have done this right now have to look at the obvious facts. The Democrats had all the Epstein files in their possession for 4 long years under the Biden presidency. The Biden Department of Justice had these files, and no one on this side who is breathless today about the urgency of this release ever said a word about it. And it was the Democrats who could have urged President Biden's Department of Justice to go beyond prosecuting just Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, but they didn't do it. And so it's a fair question to ask today, why now? Why the sudden urgent interest in Jeffrey Epstein? Look, we know why. It's because the Democrats were never interested in transparency or executing justice or protecting the victims of this unspeakable tragedy before. The simple truth is obvious for everybody to see. This is a political exercise for Democrats, and it pains me to say it. I wish that was not the truth, but it is, and it's undeniable. This is as deceitful and dishonest as their pointless stunt was to shut the government down. Democrats are using the Epstein tragedy, the unspeakable evils that this guy committed with his trafficking ring and all of the abuses that they made these young women go through. They're using that as a political weapon to try to distract from their failures as a party and to try their best to try to tie President Trump somehow into this wretched scandal. The president had nothing to do with it. He's been very clear, and he has nothing to hide, and that's why he's endorsed the vote today. I suspect this vote will be probably unanimous. But here's the important point that everybody needs to understand. We have been advocates of maximum transparency, but we have also insisted that the victims be carefully protected. The Oversight Committee has been doing extraordinary work, and we've got some of the most vigorous advocates on the Republican and Democrat side on the Oversight Committee. They've been working in earnest to deliver transparency for the American people and to do it in a responsible manner. What do we mean by that? The bipartisan effort over there is already producing all the results that the discharge petition seeks and much, much more. Chairman Comer and all of these advocates over there have been releasing thousands of documents, for example, from the Epstein estate. By the way, in my view, that's been the greatest treasure trove of information because it's yielded for us Epstein's own personal flight logs, his financial records, his daily calendars, and so much more. But importantly, none of that was addressed or is addressed in the legislation that's being voted on today. The estate files wouldn't even have been encompassed in that. And so it goes to show that the Oversight Committee is doing it from the right way. From the very beginning, we've been insistent that this matter be handled carefully and with the utmost caution and care for the people who have been harmed. They should not be made to suffer any longer. We're talking about real people's lives at stake here, and young victims who don't want to be dragged into this political game that could get hurt further. But the Democrats are rushing the release of thousands of unsubstantiated documents that may be included in this, that are going to be in the public domain with the passage of this bill. And there are serious deficiencies in the legislation that I have noted at length, and Republicans have to work to address those deficiencies in the Senate if and when this legislation is advanced. I stood before the American public today at our press conference, and I explained in detail the dangers of the discharge petition. We have posted at my website, speaker.gov, a summary. The legal counsel, a small army of lawyers, put this together. I used to be a federal court litigator. Many of my colleagues who've spoken today were. We understand the dangers of how this was haphazardly drawn up. And among them, by the way, Mr. Speaker, before I forget, I seek unanimous consent to enter into this document into the record. It's on the website. It's entitled, How the Flaws of H.R. 4405 Could Re-Victimize Epstein's Victims, Create New Victims, and Damage the Judicial System. It is dated today. Thank you. And it summarizes just 5 or 6 of the major concerns. Among them, it fails to fully protect victim privacy. It could create new categories of victims. It potentially jeopardizes grand jury secrecy. It fails to prohibit release of child sexual abuse materials that are not appropriately defined in the legislation. It jeopardizes future federal investigations, and we have national security concerns regarding classified information. We'll put this in the record because we need the legislative record to reflect what is the legislative intent behind this vote. I used to litigate cases. We would litigate federal statutes and whether or not they could survive, and legislative intent is important, and we need to say clearly for the record, as a Speaker of the House, I'm saying to you, this legislation that will pass today is flawed and it must be amended. The question is, why didn't we amend it here before we passed it? Because the authors won't allow it. Because under the rules of the House, under a discharge petition, they have to agree to consent for the legislation to be amended, and they're not doing that. So now we rely upon our partners in the other chamber to get that done. and they need to do that. The victims deserve our utmost respect. In fact, they should be saluted for their courage. And the young women who have not come forward, who are now, some of them are middle-aged women who have not come forward, also deserve our respect, and they deserve to be protected. Republicans support transparency. We want maximum transparency, especially when it comes to disclosing the names of anybody who had anything to do with these evils, anybody who conspired with or aided in any way Jeffrey Epstein. They must be brought to justice. We want the bill to be amended so it doesn't, at the same time, violate victim privacy, create new victims, disclose the names of any whistleblower or informant, cause the release of grand jury materials or child sexual abuse materials, or undermine our national security. And if and when the Senate takes this up, we will work with our colleagues over there to make sure that these things are corrected. I'll just close with this simple thought. We've been at this a while. It's drug on for a while. But it's time for this to come to light. I expect that this will be a unanimous vote, and it will reflect what I think every member in this chamber, and I'll say this now, at least in recent days, every member of the chamber on the Democrat side, they didn't say anything for 4 years, but they're for maximum transparency now, and so is this side. But we want to do it in a respectful and careful manner so that we don't subject innocent people to further harm. And that has been the whole thing. I told all my members today I'll be voting yes on this, and I suspect almost everyone will. We'll send it to the Senate, and we hope it's corrected. Thank you for the time, Mr. Speaker, and I yield back.
Gentleman reserves. The gentleman from Maryland is recognized.
I'm yielding to Mr. Gomez for the sole purpose of making a parliamentary inquiry.
Mr. Gomez is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to ask a point of parliamentary inquiry. Is this an appropriate time to point out that the Republicans named children's savings account in their so-called one big beautiful bill after Donald Trump, someone connected to one of the most notorious pedophiles in this country, or that the Speaker of the House just lied on the floor by stating that there was protections, there isn't protections for the victims in the Epstein bill.
The gentleman is no longer recognized. The gentleman from Maryland, you are recognized.
Thank you. I am prepared to close. I've got no more speakers on my side.
The gentleman reserves. Gentleman from Ohio is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. No.
Gentleman from Ohio has 30 seconds.
If you could, can I inquire how much time is remaining?
30 seconds. Six minutes, 15 seconds.
Take 30 his.
We reserve.
Gentleman reserved. Gentleman from Maryland is recognized.
I'll take the opportunity of the Speaker's presence to respond to some of the things that he said. In the very presence of the victims and the survivors who come to join us today, the Speaker said that now would be a time we should be working on urgent legislative work. Mr. Speaker, justice is urgent legislative work. The truth is urgent legislative work. The Speaker says, why now? Why now? Well, Mr. Speaker, you were the one who refused to swear in Adelita Grajova for 50 days. We would have done it 50 days ago, but she provided the 218th signature on the discharge petition. So why now? It was because of your dilatory tactics, your delay, your postponement of it. Now, the gentleman says that there are not sufficient protections. There are protections in the bill for the victims to make sure that their names will be redacted. And yet we hear even the Speaker of the House of Representatives openly inviting the U.S. Senate to start finger painting on this bill, which we have waited more than 5 months to bring to the floor. The Senate should pass the bill exactly as it's written. The President should sign it exactly as he said he would when he finally changed his mind. And the Epstein file must be released. Moreover, if the President is serious about what he's saying, he's got the power to release the Epstein file right now. Nobody's stopping him. It's within his possession. It's within his control. He can release the whole thing, and he can redact the names of the victims and others who are innocent in this process. Mr. Speaker, Speaker Johnson said that these are unspeakable evils. Well, because of the bravery and the invincible courage of the women who've joined us today, they're no longer unspeakable. They're spoken. They're articulated. The cat is out of the bag, and we know what's been going on for decades. It's been a double standard of justice, going all the way back to Alex Acosta, who later got rewarded with a cabinet appointment in the Trump administration. Alex Acosta had a 60-count federal indictment ready to go against all kinds of people for an interstate sex trafficking conspiracy with solicitation, with child sex abuse, all of it. And he traded that 60-count federal indictment for 1 count in state court. And Jeffrey Epstein ended up getting the sweetest of sweetheart deals ever on the plea bargain front. He was free from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. to do whatever he wanted and continuing to perpetrate his crimes and run his conspiracy. And then he would come and he would watch TV and spend the night in jail. And it was over in about a year after the rape and sexual abuse of hundreds and hundreds of girls. And he kept going and he kept at it. We want the whole truth to come out. This is the United States of America. Even the British monarchy wouldn't put up with this. How about the American democracy? How about we say, no way, we're not going to allow this cover-up to go on for 1 day more. And I'm glad the president changed his mind after pulling out all the stops to try to get one of our Republican colleagues to change their mind, to remove their name from the discharge petition. He gave up. And I want to salute the gentlelady from Colorado from having the courage to stand her ground in the Situation Room in the White House and say, no, she wasn't going to be bullied. No. So I'm glad the president changed his mind. But let's be clear, Mr. President, you've got the power today to release the entire file. That's what you called for. That's what Pam Bondi called for. That's what Kash Patel called for. So we don't need anybody calling for the Senate to slow things down for more weeks and more months. The American people have had it. We'll reserve.
Gentleman reserves. Gentleman is reminded to direct your comments to the chair and not your colleagues. The gentleman from Ohio is recognized, and you do have 90 seconds remaining. Correction.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield 30 seconds to the gentleman from Texas.
Gentleman from Texas is recognized.
The Democrat Party, with help from the dishonest media, used the Epstein files not to seek justice from the victims, but to smear President Trump. And it's sickening, quite sickening. The Democrats have used the Epstein files to distract the American people from the wins President Trump and his administration have delivered for the American people for the last 11 months. I'm proud to work with my Republican colleagues on the House Oversight Committee in coordination with the Justice Department. 65,000 pages of documents are related from Epstein released. What have my Democrat colleagues done? They selectively leaked and altered documents to mislead the American people. As President Trump has stated, we have nothing to hide here. I'm voting to release the files so that we can move on from this smear campaign the Democrats have manufactured. God bless
Gentleman's
Donald J.
time has
Trump.
expired. Gentleman from Maryland is recognized.
Reserve the balance of my time.
Gentleman reserves. Gentleman from Ohio reserves. Gentleman from Maryland is recognized.
All right. How much time do I have to close?
You have 2 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I want to thank all of America for tuning in to this. I want to thank Representatives Massey and Khanna, Representative Green, all of those who have insisted upon bringing the truth forward and a reckoning with the reality of one of the worst international child sex trafficking rings ever to exist in the United States and the cover-up attendant to it. We've got the opportunity today to do justice for the victims, for the survivors who have come forward to say that the voice of the victims and the survivors must be put at the very center of our deliberations, not shunted off to the side, not submerged, not subordinated, but put at the very center. We must hear from the people who themselves were victimized by this nightmare. Now, our colleagues across the aisle seem to want to make this into some sort of partisan contest. I haven't heard so much talk about the Democrats since the Democratic National Convention. And all that we've done here is to say we want to bring the truth forward along with a bipartisan group. We don't want the Senate monkeying around with this in order to slow things down. We want it passed in the Senate. We want it signed. And before that, if the president is true to his word and he wants to see all of this come to light, he can release it now instead of fighting, kicking, and screaming every step along the way. But I'm glad he's changed his mind, and I hope he maintains the momentum he's got to stick with the vast majority of the American people who want to see that the truth is done here. And while he's at it, the administration could reconsider their terrible policies, gutting federal offices and programs designed to combat violence against women. The DOJ terminated hundreds of grants to police departments, defunding the police when it comes to investigating violent sex crimes and to support victims. His DOJ destroyed programs to combat international human trafficking rings. Let's get back on the side of the women. I yield back.
John Brennan testified in front of our committee under oath, said he was not involved with the dossier. Only problem is, Tulsi Gabbard declassified a report, released that report, and it said exactly the opposite. And she related a story in there where a CIA official went up to Mr. Brennan and said, we shouldn't include this in the report. And John Brennan's response was, yeah, but doesn't it ring true? Forget the facts, forget the truth, go after Trump, put it in. Same dynamic at work here. We're all for protecting innocent victims. We're all for exposing the bad guys who did bad things. But this is an obsession with the left. For 10 years, it's going after President Trump. So vote yes. Make sure the bad guys are held accountable. We all want to do that. Speaker Johnson's right. I think it's going to be unanimous. But understand what they're doing, because they had 4 years and didn't do a darn thing. With that, I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. The question is, will the House suspend the rules and pass the bill H.R. 4405? Those in favor say aye. Those opposed say no. In the opinion of the chair, two-thirds being in the affirmative, the rules are suspended. The bill is passed, and without
Can I request a recorded vote, Mr. Speaker?
The gentleman from Maryland is recognized.
Yeah, I'm requesting a recorded vote.
The gentleman from Maryland has requested a recorded vote. Those favoring a recorded vote will rise. A sufficient number having risen, a recorded vote is ordered. Members will record their votes by electronic device. Pursuant to Clause 9 of Rule 20, this 15-minute vote on the motion to suspend the rules will be followed by 5-minute votes on ordering the previous question on House Resolution 879, adoption of House Resolution 879 if ordered, and adoption of House Resolution 878. This is a 15-minute vote.
All right, so instead of sitting here watching paint dry, we already know it's going to be unanimous. So I'm not sure if you know what I'll do? Here's what I'll do. I've got to run a couple of information things for you. Let's go ahead and do the super chats, and then while we're doing super chats, then we'll jump back over here, and by that time the formalities will be done and we will know that it passed. Now, just to give you some procedural information, if you didn't understand while they were screaming, I will explain it to you. This bill that they're signing right now means absolutely dog poop. It does not mean anything. It goes nowhere. It is merely now at this point that the House will pass it, and then it has to go to the Senate. So once they do all their doohicking things here and go ahead and sign it, even though, who knows what's going to happen, it pretty much will probably be unanimous or close to it. The reason why they asked for it, because they want it, instead of just saying aye, yay, no, the Democrats want the actual names so that you know what they're going to do. They're going to go right to the press and go, this guy or this woman said no. They're terrible people. They're trying to keep it hidden. That's the only reason for it. And that's the only reason why most of them are even going to vote for it to begin with, is because they don't want to be shamed. So it's a shame vote. That's merely what it is. And then, so once that happens, let me go ahead. I'm trying to find this. Once that happens and they do this vote, then at its conclusion, it will be given to the Senate. The Senate, as you already know, the Senate, as you already know, they are then going to take it up and do the whole charade all over again. Unfortunately for Jamie Raskin and the Democrats, there's only 100 senators, and it's going to have to get, I believe, it might need 50-51. If it needs 60, it's dead. So I'm assuming that it only needs 51. Let's just say it needs 51. They'll probably get it, but before they take the vote, they are going to make sure that they put in that amendment that you can't go out and disseminate the pictures and videos and all kinds of information not relative to the people who actually did the deed. And it was a good point. I hadn't thought about it. I forget which guy said it or which lady. If someone was a driver for John, if somebody was a hotel concierge for George, these people they weren't involved. Somebody drove somebody, the pilot that flew somebody over there, they're not the ones who actually did the deed. So those names, we can't, I don't know how you would justify ruining people's lives just because they were a chauffeur or things of that nature. Now, I know what some people will say. Some people will say, well, he had to know where he was driving the guy. He had to know where they were flying the guy. But in any event, that's what they're trying to protect. Hey, listen, I never touched any little girl. I was merely the pilot. Oh, well, then you need to go to jail or be ruined. Ruined. I just served a meal. I was a stewardess. I didn't know what these people were doing. They kept flying over here. Hey, when he was in New York, I drove the limo. So I don't know. You guys may some of you may think, yeah, if you drove the limo to this certain address and you kept driving it there, then you too need to go down. I don't know. That's where we're headed. We're headed to scarlet letter territory. We are headed to a place where anybody who sniffs that address, whether it be here or on the island, they're going to be stained. And here's what's going to happen. I don't think the Democrats realize this. Think of the actors. Think of the athletes. Think of the entertainers and celebrities. They are so bloodthirsty on Trump. This is where it gets really weird when you think about it. They have such bloodlust on Trump. Seemingly, they don't care anybody else gets hurt. They don't care. Well, then again, if XYZ celebrity or entertainer or actor did something, then they should get it. But I bet you a lot of those ancillary people are Democrat supporters. Go look up who Reid Hoffman is. Go look up, as I showed you earlier, seemed like it was yesterday at this point, go look up who Larry Summers is. These people are starting to get picked off, and they're realizing, hey man, I'm on your team. Sorry, we got to get Trump. And so what I foresee happening here, watch what happens. They are somehow going to finagle and get this information that Trump talked on a phone, or that Trump did this. And if Joe and Fred were part of it, the media is probably going to ignore it. Because it doesn't matter that XYZ football player or actor or anything like that was caught up in it. You watch. They will run cover for those people. They will not let them go down whatsoever. I'm just making sure the screen is on. They're not going to let them go down. Count on that. All right, so let me do super chats while there's still 8 minutes left in the count here. Let me do this. This should be interesting. Oh, by the way, I got to show you something. While everything was down this morning, you may not have seen this. This was pretty crazy. Let me show this before I go to super chats, because this is pretty big, really pretty big. You ready for this one? Notice how nobody talked about this. Didn't even come up. Well, Obamacare is done. Bye, Obamacare. Here's what President Trump had to say about Obamacare. The only health care I will support or approve is sending the money directly back to the people, with nothing going to the big fat rich insurance companies who have made trillions and ripped off America long enough. The people will be allowed to negotiate and buy their own much better insurance. Power to the people. Congress, do not waste your time and energy on anything else. This is the only way to have great health care in America. Get it done now, President Donald J. Trump. So he's letting them know, I'm not signing anything else. I don't care. I'm not signing anything else. Get rid of Obamacare, then we can talk. See, the Democrats are chasing their tails because they have so many things that they have to fight. They can't even fight more than one fight at the same time. Now that Obamacare is toast, and now we're going to have to reapply for SNAP benefits, that's why you see them doing this. Like, please, can there be something in there against Trump we can tear him down with? Something, because everything else spells a loss for them. They're done. They're absolutely done, and they know they're done. And they're just trying at this point to do nothing but conflate things to try and make it seem like they have a shot at anything. They are so done, it's not funny. I think you're seeing that right now. I think you're absolutely seeing it. All right, so they're still voting. Let me get to the super chats while I'm here. Where are we? I love that the lady brought her daughter in, because what a great place to find someplace quiet to sleep. It's boring, but yeah, that's how our government works. So anyway, alrighty, so let me do this. Luisa Segal, I support President Trump and the Prince of Saudi. Allies, I have many fellow veterans who live and work in Saudi Arabia. I will open my business in Saudi Arabia. Wow, wish I could do some business up in Saudi. But then again, I don't know if they'd like the blonde-haired, blue-eyed white woman. Anyway, Chapo, Russia made a robot honoring Biden. It dropped on its face like Biden. I did see that. Mary Boston, President Trump is on a roll. ABC was so rude. That was earlier when he was absolutely destroying these people for being idiots. Fazul, Biden had 4 years to release the files. Yep, Bill Clinton. Buddy Sanders thought President Trump already said he wanted the files released. He does, but this is the process. Buddy, again, is this a Disney show? It just seems like it. You're absolutely right. Let me see here. Jen V. I pray I am very wrong, but whatever that religion money is invested will be a plan for the future benefit of them when they eventually take over America. All the great infrastructure will be in place and will be used by them. I had to be delicate as I was talking about that because they don't like you talking about those certain kind of people. And I want to tell you something else. I'm pretty sure that Jamie Raskin was saying the kind of inflammatory talk that he was saying because he knows YouTube doesn't like that word that begins with R and sounds like grape. He kept saying the grape word because he knows he can say that and completely screw up people's broadcasting. What a tool he is. Let's see. So where are we here? All right, so we got four more minutes to go over this nonsense that it will pass. SV said he thought that there was one oh, that's right. This is SV. Stop being a what do you call it? Spoiler alert thing. Because yes. Okay, so what we got here? I think it's going to be Higgins. You know what? Since this is, I forgot. He's absolutely right. Since this is on a delay, I can fast forward. I've got that technology where I can just go up at like 5 minutes, and so we can see where we are with it. Oh, here we go. And now we have, boom, so you don't have to sit here. So the vote is final, or semi-final. 95 people, 93 still haven't voted. One Democrat said no. No, hey, so it's one Democrat said no as well. The time is still running. Let me go ahead and fast forward a little bit so we don't have to sit here and wonder what the heck is going on. And here's the final vote. The final vote was 424 yay, 1 nay, and we still got 7 people who haven't voted, so it doesn't really matter. But we got one Republican that SV said was Higgins who didn't vote, and we have one Democrat who didn't vote. So it's just about unanimous. So they were saying they had 218 Democrats, but as of right now, there's only 211. So they're not going to get to 218. So they're going to, and if one, wait a second here. If there's only 7 left, and 4 of those are Republican, this is interesting. 215 to 211, 216 to 211. Okay, so they're going to get 218 because out of that 5 left, a couple of them will be Republicans that or Democrats that will vote yes, and that will take it to, 427. It's done. It's done. It's done. It's done. Let me fast forward again so you can hear the gavel. Hold on. Let me see.
Question is on ordering the previous question. Members will record their vote by electronic device. This is a 5-minute vote.
Oh, that's the other one. All right, so
1, 2/3 being in the affirmative. The rules are suspended. The bill is passed, and without objection, the motion to reconsider is laid on the table.
all right, so there we go. We can get out of here now. The vote has passed, and it now goes to the Senate, and God help you if you're in this file. God help you if they dig up your name somehow. They're going to drag you through the mud. And if you did something, you deserve to have your name dragged through the mud, even if they are Republican. If you harmed kids, you need to go down.
79. Resolution providing for consideration of the joint resolution, Senate Joint Resolution 80, providing for congressional disapproval under Chapter 8 of Title 5 United States Code of the rules submitted by the Bureau of Land Management relating to National Petroleum Reserve in Alaska, Integrated Activity Plan Record of Decision, providing for consideration of the joint...
All right, so they've moved on to another bill. All right, so I already did the super chats. Let me do the after party. I will see you for the dinner. The dinner, for what I understand, let me check the time for the dinner tonight, which should be very interesting to say the least. 1 second. The MBS and Donald Trump, they will be at the dinner. The dinner starts at, the receiving line will begin at 6:40. At 6:40, they'll be outside. So 6:45, I will be going live, probably about 6:30. So see you guys in about 3.5 hours. All right? Thank you. Thank you very much.